SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Chris Paul is now 39 years old, and ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reports the deadline for the Warriors to guarantee his contract for next year is being pushed back to Sunday to see if they can find a trade for Paul. The team could also waive Paul for salary cap space. So now there's LeBron and Bronny James on the Lakers roster. How should new coach J.J. Redick deal with the 19-year-old? ESPN's Bob Myers.
If you're JJ, you sit down and say, listen, I might even be harder on you. Just understand that. It might not be fair, but I'm not going to have anyone saying that I'm taking it easy on you. You turn it over in practice, I'm going to say something to you. You do something on film, I'm going to say something to you.
Bob Myers. The Phillies put first baseman Bryce Harper and DH Kyle Schwarber on the injured list. Harper with a left hamstring strain, Schwarber with a left groin strain. Novak Djokovic and Andy Murray are both in the Wimbledon bracket, but there's no guarantee either of them will actually play because of injuries. The tournament starts Monday.
As humans, we like having options. One option you might like is speaking with a real person when you call about your credit card. With 24/7 live U.S.-based customer service from Discover, everyone can talk to a real person anytime, day or night. Limitations apply. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
Let's ride.
Off we go. Welcome aboard on a Friday edition of AFR, brought to you by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Sitting in for Matt Moscona, I'm Taylor Sharp. Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
And Alonzo Villarreal. All right, driving you home here from 3 to 6. I'm hanging out with you for the next 3 hours or so. My guy Hunt Palmer was in the host chair yesterday, and Alondra, Paul, you guys informed me that Hunt not so polished on the AFR intro. Is that correct?
No, he did terrible. Also, I couldn't find your drop on here.
It's a cool drop, too. It's Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top. Let's hear it. I got to hear it. Okay, perfect. Now we can start the show. What did Hunt do? I mean, it's introing the show is arguably the easiest thing you do.
Correct. But Hunt, he wanted to say the lines himself, or the drops himself. He didn't want me to play the drops.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
Why does Hunt do anything? Okay. You know what I mean? And he said, hello, Twitter world, instead of Shaq. He did OJ.
Okay.
And he got Paul's right, but he didn't even know mine.
Well, yours is like, it doesn't say your name in it.
Asks me, well, yeah, nothing says my name. Yeah. But he asked me who it was. I said audio. So he said, I don't know who that is. And I was like, I'm not. And the least surprising thing that I've heard today was that.
Okay. Well, look, we already got things started off on a better note than we did yesterday. Yeah. Look, obviously we're going to be very football heavy today. It's kind of what I do. But let's kick off the show as we do every day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
Okay, so I did just mention that we are going to be football heavy, and look, we're going to have a lot of Saints talk, a lot of LSU, but where I want to start today is the NBA Draft. The first round of the NBA Draft occurred on Wednesday. Yesterday during the day at about 4 o'clock, which was a really weird time to have the second round. That occurred as well. The Pelicans, who were only scheduled to have a first-round pick, traded back up into the second round. So we have 2 picks to recap. We'll start with the first-round pick. The Pelicans select Baylor center Yves Missi, 21st overall. Look, this is a guy who's 6'11", a 7'2" wingspan. At 6'11", he has a 38.5-inch vertical jump, which is just incredible. Not eye-popping numbers at Baylor, but, a solid player nonetheless. 10 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, a block and a half per game. In his only year in college, he is a super athletic player. If you guys have not watched him play, defense is the name of the game for Yves Missi. This is a guy who can pretty much guard 1 through 5 on the defensive end. He's also a really great finisher on the offensive side of the ball. He was second in the entire country, that's all of Division I basketball last year, in dunks. The Pelicans struggled at finishing at the rim, especially when Jonas Valanciunas was out of the lineup. That's something they struggled mightily with. Finishing and getting fouled down low in order to get to the free throw line. You go look at a lot of their losses down the stretch when Valanciunas was injured, when Ingram was injured, when Zion was in and out of the lineup. That was their biggest issue. They were out-rebounded down low, they were out-physical down low, and they didn't get to the free throw line enough because they weren't physical enough down low. The biggest weakness for me in terms of Yves Missy's game, he's a little bit raw. This is a guy that didn't start playing basketball till he was about 16 years old, but he does have the ability to be a really solid all-around player. I mean, I just mentioned it, 6'11", 7'2" wingspan, 38.5-inch vertical jump. That right there tells you that he has the athletic tools needed to shape into a nice NBA player. A lot of people I saw after the first round were like, hey, why didn't you draft Kyle Filipowski, the big man out of Duke? He was there. He was a lot more of a productive player in college. Here's the issue I had with that. Filipowski's a great player. In my opinion, in the NBA, he's a lot more of a 4 or that power forward spot than he is a true center down low. You needed that true center down low. Because as of right now, Jonas Valanciunas is an unrestricted free agent, and by all accounts, he will not return to the New Orleans Pelicans. Is Yves Misy a day one starter? I don't think so, but as far as fits, I'm not sure there was a better fit in the first round of the NBA draft for the New Orleans Pelicans than was Yves Misy. Now, as far as the second round selection goes, so what were the two biggest needs for the Pelicans heading into the draft? A lot of people would have said center. You need a big, you need a rim protector, and you need more outside shooting. So on Wednesday, they get the big man situation squared away, at least for the time being. So what do they do in the second round? Well, 47th overall, they trade with the Magic. The Orlando Magic had to draft him, but he's immediately going to the New Orleans Pelicans. They get Antonio Reeves, the shooter out of Kentucky. In many ways, this is the polar opposite of the Pelicans' first-round pick, right? You have a super big, strong, athletic big man. Now you draft a guard who's about 6'4", 6'5", not super athletic, but he can shoot the lights out of the gym. He's very good on the offensive side. We just broke down Yves Misy, and what did we talk about? He's a much better defender at this point in his career than he is an offensive player. Flip that with Antonio Reeves, which I'm fine with. I think the Pelicans have plenty defense as far as their backcourt goes. Trey Murphy plays good defense. Herb Jones is an excellent defender. Jose Alvarado is really only in there for defensive purposes. You bring in Antonio Reeves. You needed more shooting. He shot 44.7% on 6 attempts per game last season at Kentucky. This guy had a green light. And look, all the hype coming into the draft was Reed Sheppard, who I don't think was a reach at 3rd overall. I know a lot of people did. Reed Sheppard is an excellent basketball player, both offensively and defensively. Rob Dillingham, he came off the bench for Kentucky. He was a hotshot freshman. He could score with the best of them. But honestly, at crunch time in the biggest games for Kentucky, if it wasn't Dillingham, they went to Antonio Reeves. He's a 5th-year college player. He played 3 years at Illinois, then the last 2 at Kentucky. He was a guy that Coach Calipari trusted. So you have a raw, really young, super athletic player in Yves Misy, a guy that's not overly athletic in Antonio Reeves, but he's a veteran. He's 23 years old coming into the NBA. He's been there, done that. Instead of playing 1 year of college like Misy, he's been there for 5 years. Misy did not attempt a 3-point shot all year long last year at Baylor, which is fine. I need him playing down low. I just told you that Antonio Reeves, dang near 6 attempts per game. So you filled both of your needs very nicely there. The thing I wanted to look at is, does Yves Misy completely solve your problem at center? I don't think he does, at least not yet, because of how raw he is, because of how incomplete of a player he is on the offensive end. Because if Jonas Valanciunas leaves in free agency, which by all accounts that's going to happen, who else do you have down low? Now, you got Larry Nance. Nance is not your traditional NBA center. He's kind of that tweener between that 4 and that 5. Great defender, great rebounder. Not elite when it comes to putting the ball in the hole. When you look at some of the free agents out there, outside of Valanciunas, who do you have? Because I truly believe, even with Larry Nance Jr. and Yves Misy, in order to feel super comfortable about your post play going into next season, you're going to need another center. Now, it doesn't have to be somebody who you break the bank for, who's a perennial all-star. Can you bring in a solid veteran? Somebody to help Larry Nance with some of those tough minutes and bring along Yves Missi as slowly as you can. The first name that comes to my mind is Isaiah Hartenstein from the New York Knicks. He was excellent last season. He's only 26 years old. He came off the bench for most of the season behind a Mitchell Robinson until Robinson went down. I think Hartenstein's the better of those two centers. Now, in all likelihood, the New York Knicks are going to re-sign Isaiah Hartenstein. I mean, they've been excellent in free agency. They trade for Mikal Bridges. They re-sign OG Anunoby. I think they're going to re-sign Isaiah Hartenstein as well. But they do still have Mitchell Robinson under contract. So if, negotiations go sour one side or another, things could happen. He could be available. That's obviously your number one target in free agency is Hartenstein. Outside of him, who are you looking at? Isaiah Drummond is a name that, or Andre Drummond, I should say, is a name that kind of jumps out the page at you. He is not the player he was with the Detroit Pistons. He is not an all-star caliber player at this point in his career. He suffered some injuries. His play has been a little lackluster, but look, this is a guy who made $3.5 million last year with Chicago. He's still only 30 years old. If he can overcome some of those injuries, I think he could be a solid piece for you. And again, I'm not asking any of these guys to come in and just be a 25 to 30 minute a night guy. That's not what you need. Can he play 15? Can Nance play 15? Can Yves Missi play the other 10 minutes? That's all you're looking for. Piecing it together, helping Yves Missi come along as slowly as possible. Outside of those two guys, though, there's not a ton of options. I mean, the next big name, and his name's bigger than his own court production, is Mohamed Bamba of the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, he wasn't a good fit with the Lakers. He was in and out of the lineup with injuries. He was wildly inconsistent. But Mohamed Bamba, I mean, he's been a big name in this league. His name's been mentioned in rap songs. I mean, we saw his talent at Texas, and he showed flashes when he got drafted by the Orlando Magic. We know the talent is in there. Can you tap into some of that untapped potential so far in the NBA? You've seen the potential. Can you get a little bit more consistency out of him? Again, a guy that made about $2.5 million last year, you can bring him in. You could still be under that salary cap. So you have a few options at center. I still think you need a true point guard, though. While you added shooting in the backcourt, if you started your season today, CJ McCollum is probably your point guard. Now, I get point Zion and all that. The offense is going to run through him. He's obviously not a true one as well. CJ McCollum, throughout the majority of his career, has been a lot more comfortable as that two guard, as that catch and shoot shooting guard. As far as free agent point guards go, it is slim pickings. All right, let me read you out some of the names. Kyle Lowry, 38 years old. Does that interest you? That interests me. He made $28 million last year. I'll pass on that. Markelle Fultz. The price tag's a little too hefty for me. He's a solid player. He's been decimated with injury. Tyus Jones, Cameron Payne, Aaron Holiday, Chris Dunn, Spencer Dinwiddie. You get the point. It is slim pickings as far as point guards go in free agency. That brings me to Brandon Ingram. What do you do with Brandon Ingram? I personally would like to have Ingram back. I don't know how feasible that is at this point. Pelicans had offered him close to a max deal last year. He turned it down. He's going to want that max deal. I don't know if the Pelicans can give him that. Honestly, him and Zion have not worked out quite as well as you wanted them to, at least on the court together. Really, when one of the other is on the court, they're kind of more efficient than when they're out there at the same time. Again, I would like to keep him in New Orleans, but at this point, I think all signs point to him being traded. Now, you could trade him for another wing shooter, but you got plenty of that with Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. I think I'd try to trade him for a point guard. Now, Trae Young's name has been brought up a ton. I love Trae Young. He is a knockdown three-point shooter. A backcourt of him and CJ McCollum with Jordan Hawkins, Antonio Reeves coming off the bench. They would shoot the lights out of basketball. But you don't need a ton of shooting from that spot. That's why his teammate, DeJounte Murray, whose name has been brought up as well, I think is a lot better fit. If you want the starting point guard, I think Murray's the better option. Because while the offense is still going to run through Zion, you need someone to get him the ball. DeJounte Murray's bigger. He's 6'5". He can drive the lane. He can shoot the ball a little bit as well, but he's also a lot better facilitator than Trae Young. You have to get Zion the ball. You have to get Trey Murphy the ball. We just talked about Antonio Reeves. He's a catch-and-shoot guy. He's not one of those guys that's going to create a lot of his own shot. You need a guy that can distribute the ball. I think Murray does that, and I think he does it really well. Not saying it's going to happen, but maybe keep an eye out on that, because I know Trae Young's name has been floated around a lot, but DeJounte Murray might actually be the better fit for this New Orleans Pelicans team. Now, look, as far as the NBA draft as a whole goes, I really like what the Pelicans did. Outside of maybe the Minnesota Timberwolves, they may have had one of the best drafts. If you missed what the Timberwolves did, they got Rob Dillingham from the Spurs at 8 overall, who we saw play at Kentucky. He is a walking bucket. Then you get Terrence Shannon from Illinois at 27 overall. He can play the 2, he can play the 3, he can handle the ball as well. I get it. He ran into some off-the-court issues. By all accounts, that is behind him. We'll see how that plays out, but a solid player nonetheless. Outside of that, with Yves Missi and Antonio Reeves adding a shooter and a big man down low that you really needed, I think the Pelicans kind of filled their needs. Now, obviously, I don't think their roster's a finished product because I don't know if Missi's ready to play right away, but I really like the direction the front office is going. All right, look, we're going to take a quick timeout. When we get back, I told you we're going to be football heavy. College Football News put out a win-loss total prediction for LSU coming up in the 2024 season. I'm going to get Paul and Alondra's thoughts real quick on if that win-loss projection is too low, too high, right on the money. Then I'm going to go game by game, break down maybe what this team's final record could be. That's coming up next on the other side here on AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by Action Industries, proud partner of LSU Athletics. ActionIndinc.com. That's where you find them online. You can find them on LinkedIn as well. And one of the things that I tell you often about Action Industries that I really respect the most is Action Industries, they know who they are as a business. They've been around since 1982. So in 42 years, they've really developed a reputation among the petrochemical and refinery markets. And so when it comes to those contractors, these industrial and commercial contractors, like their safety record is exemplary. The work that they do is exceptional, which is why they thrive on repeat business. Well, you don't keep getting hired for 42 years if you're not doing great work. That's Action Industries. But also they know who they are. There's some giant companies that do these mega projects, and they're not going to bid on a $200 million project. But if you have a 100-man job, that's their sweet spot. They're perfect for that. You need to get to know Action Industries. ActionIndinc.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
AFR is brought to you by First South Farm Credit. You know where to start. Your first call, your first visit, your first option when it comes to buying land in Louisiana is First South Farm Credit. And honestly, it doesn't even have to be land in Louisiana, because First South Farm Credit can help you buy land in any of the contiguous 48. And they've got more than 40 branches in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. So if you're right here in the Southeast, there's First South Farm Credit locations all near you. But remember, like, for example, let's say a lot of our audience in New Orleans, of course. You're living in New Orleans, maybe you're starting to build a family, grow a family. You want to move to the North Shore like a lot of people do. You want to buy the 100 acres in Tangipahoa. You can. And First South Farm Credit can help because they have an office in Amite. So you can walk in there, you can do business with someone who talks like you, lives where you live, and help you buy land wherever you want to buy land in the contiguous 48. It's First South Farm Credit. If you're thinking of buying land, your first call, your first option should be First South Farm Credit. FirstSouthLand.com.
All right, welcome back into a Friday edition of AFR. It's almost AFR with Matt Moscona. It is after further review. Taylor Sharp here sitting in for Matt Moscona. He will be out all of next week as well. I teased it a little bit going into the break. We're going to shift our focus right now to LSU football. And Pete Futek of College Football News put out a prediction for LSU's win-loss total for the 2024 season. He set it at 9.5. So real quickly, I'm going to go to Paul and Alondra. 9.5. Too high, too low, or right on the money?
I think that's kind of right on the money.
Okay, Paul?
I also agree. I think that's pretty spot on.
Yeah.
All right, well, looks like we're unanimous. I think it's right on the money as well. But look, Pete points out you lose Jaden Daniels. Your offense is not going to be as deadly as it was a year ago. But behind this offensive line and a guy who's as talented as Garrett Nussmeier, your offense is going to be fine. You're going to have to rely a lot more on the defensive improvements. Can Blake Baker make a huge jump? I think he can, because if you go back and look at what he did in Missouri, he took a big jump in his first year compared to where they were before he took over. And then his second year as defensive coordinator, they had a top 30 defense in all of college football. I think he inherits a lot more raw talent here than he did in Missouri. Now, that talent was not always put in the right place, and there's a lot of untapped potential, but it's Blake Baker's job to get this defense right. Let's kind of go game by game because, look, Pete was very complimentary of LSU. He said likely losses on the schedule. There are no projected likely losses. There is not a game on this schedule that you look at and say LSU has no chance to win. So I wanted to kind of quickly go game by game and take a look and see what chance LSU has of making the college football playoff. I think they got to get to 10 wins. I think 10-2 can get you in there with that 12-team playoff. You can sneak in, even if you're not one of the 2 or 3 SEC teams getting in at 10-2 with the schedule LSU plays, you can get an at-large bid. It starts right out the gate, September 1st, USC in Las Vegas. LSU has to win this game. Brian Kelly has to win this game. It's been his biggest failure so far as LSU's head coach, the stinkers that he's put up against Florida State back-to-back years. You were favored in both of those matchups. You laid an egg in both of those matchups. And obviously LSU as a whole, I mean, you guys all know, since 2019, they have not won a season opener game. You have to get this game. If you can win this game against USC, we talked about 10-2. Everybody's kind of mentioned that being the magic number. You could potentially slip up twice in SEC play and still make that college football playoff if you get it done in Las Vegas. I think they do get it done. I think Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly are very comparable as head coaches, at least so far in their careers. I think they both have a lot left to prove. I trust Brian Kelly a little bit more. And I trust Garrett Nussmeier over Miller Moss. Now, I know Miller Moss was excellent in that bowl game. Word out of Southern California is that he was a little shaky in the spring. We saw Garrett Nussmeier. Now, how much spring do you take into consideration? I don't, but it's better than not performing well in the spring. It's always a positive to perform well in spring practice. Obviously, we're going to chalk Nichols up as a win, so you start 2-0. Then you have a road SEC game, but you're at South Carolina. It's a South Carolina team that obviously lost Spencer Rattler. We know he plays down the road for the black and gold now. Problem I have with South Carolina is their offensive line is still going to be really, really bad. I mean, by all accounts, they were the worst O-line in the Southeastern Conference last year. With the recruiting and transfer portal, they didn't do a ton to shore up that position. Lenora Sellers is a redshirt freshman. He's a first-year starter at quarterback. How is he going to perform behind that shaky offensive line? Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, LSU's defensive line is nothing to write home about. Correct. But if they can gain some confidence against USC, have a good performance there, show off against Nichols, they'll have a ton of confidence going into Columbia, South Carolina against a bad offensive line. That'll give that defensive line a lot more confidence. I think LSU wins that game as well. I think they come back home and they take the UCLA game. Deshaun Foster is a first-year head coach. Your old coach Chip Kelly, yeah, he's an offensive coordinator now. Now you got Ethan Garbers at quarterback coming back. He started a lot of games. He's played in 29 games in his college career, so he's a lot more experienced than Garrett Nussmeier, but I'm just not sure the raw talent's there. I mean, you go look at his numbers, they're pedestrian. They're below average even. That game is at home in Tiger Stadium, riding a 3-game winning streak. I think LSU gets that done as well. Now, obviously, you get the win against South Alabama. You got the open date. Here's the big one. You come home 5-0 against Ole Miss, who I believe is also going to be undefeated and either 5-6-0 at that point. This could very well be a top 10 matchup inside of Tiger Stadium. I very badly want to give LSU a win in this game, but I can't do it. You're going to slip up at some point in the season. Your schedule's too tough. I think Jackson Dart, well, I don't think he's an outstanding quarterback. He's been in Lane Kiffin's system for 3 years now. We know how Lane Kiffin is with his quarterbacks. I think they slip up here. I think Ole Miss actually comes into Tiger Stadium and beats LSU. Now, you do have a get-right game against Arkansas. They've lost basically everybody. So we'll give that a win. So that's 6 wins. You are 6-1 now going to Texas A&M. I get it. It's Kyle Field. You haven't had a lot of success there recently. It is a very tough place to play. I think LSU wins this game. I don't know what Connor Wegman's going to be. It's Mike Elko's first year. You lost a ton of talent when you moved on from Jimbo Fisher. Anaya Smith's in the NFL now. Evan Stewart plays for the Oregon Ducks. Your offensive line took a little bit of a hit. Your defense should be solid, but you lost some pieces there as well, like Walter Nolan, who's over there with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. I don't think Texas A&M has the talent this year in year one under Mike Elko. I'll give them a win. Now here's your open date, and then the second Saturday in November, Alabama comes to town. I think this is the biggest toss-up game on LSU's schedule. But I'm giving the Tigers a win here. I do not trust Jalen Milroe at all. I watched him miss wide-open receiver after wide-open receiver last year in Tuscaloosa against LSU's awful secondary. The only reason that game wasn't as worse than it was is because of Jalen Milroe's inability to throw the football. Now, I understand that was his first year starting. Players are allowed to get better. The Nick Saban factor is just too much for me to overcome, though. You bring in Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer is an excellent coach. He's won everywhere he's been. He's simply not Nick Saban. Also, we haven't seen Kalen DeBoer do it without his offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, who's no longer with him at Alabama. I think the Tigers get a win. I think you go on the road in the swamp. I think you beat Florida. I think that's a dumpster fire. I think Billy Napier is hanging on by a thread with that program. I think you beat Vanderbilt. That puts you at 10 wins right there. Now, the Oklahoma game's a toss-up as well. It all depends on how Jackson Arnold's going to look at quarterback. But I think everything in front of you, you have more than enough opportunities to get to 10 wins and sneak into the college football playoff. We'll see if it happens. I like the 9.5 win total because LSU could very easily lose to a Texas A&M, to an Alabama. There's a lot of swing games in there. But if they do what they're supposed to do and they take care of business, I don't see why this team can't sneak into the college football playoff. All right, look, we're going to take a quick time out. We're going to stick with LSU football. They had a lot of recruits commit last week. We're going to talk about it. A guy who covers a lot of LSU recruiting, Jace LeJuene from Gridiron Football. He's going to join us next on the other side of this break. It's a Friday edition of After Further Review.
AFR.
Brought to you by Glow Resources. If you are a business owner, if you're an HR manager, a VP, an ops manager, if you're the person in charge of hiring at your job, at your place of business, and you're having trouble finding the right people, you need Glow Resources. And I want to remind you, Glow Resources, they're exceptional when it comes to skilled blue-collar workers and also white-collar divisions. Remember, Glow Resources has a full professional placement division. So we're talking about office administrators, executive-level assistants, assistant controllers, plant managers, scheduling assistants, basically any type of office job. Accounting, HR, marketing, managerial, supervisor roles. If you're having trouble finding those people and sometimes hard-to-fill roles, Glow Resources specialize. They recruit nationwide. For example, they had a Baton Rouge company that was looking for an engineer. They found the employee in Florida to work the job in California. It's Glow Resources. Check them out online today. glowresources.com.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
For the last 3.5 years, I've told you, do business with someone you know. And that's still the case. It's just we've got a new company. It's Parrish Construction and Roofing. But it's all still the same people. It's me, it's Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley and Joe Morales. All the way down to Christina in our office, who when you call, that's who you talk to. And the same friendly crews that come actually do the work at your home. It's our same team. We just started a new company, Parrish Construction and Roofing. You can give us a shout. We even have the same number, 364-1007, 364-1007, or parrishbuilt.com, parrishbuilt.com. Roof repairs, roof replacements, from the smallest residential repair to the largest commercial roof replacement. We do it all, and we do it friendly with a smile, and we are here. We are local. We are Parrish Construction and Roofing. Do business with someone you know. Parrishbuilt.com. That's parrishbuilt.com.
All right, welcome back into a Friday edition of AFR. Taylor Sharp here with you, filling in for Matt Moscona, and we are driving you home here on this Friday. Teased it going into break. We're going to talk some LSU recruiting here. A guy who does a lot of LSU recruiting, covers it for Gridiron Football. It's Jace LeJuene. Jace, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, Taylor. What's going on, my man?
Not a whole lot. Look, good to hear from you. Last time we talked to you, LSU was just getting into the swing of things in spring football. Now, obviously, spring football is behind us, but very busy on the recruiting trail was LSU last week. They got a handful of commitments. I want to start with maybe the biggest name that committed. It was four-star offensive lineman Carius Kern. He was obviously committed to Arkansas. This was something that was kind of rumbling for quite some time. You heard that there was a chance LSU could flip him, and they ultimately did. What do you like about Carius Kern?
Well, I like from Carius. I mean, for starters, I mean, you can't coach 6'4", 315 pounds. So that for starters, he's got the frame already. You can plug in and get him in the SEC. But he can also play all around. He plays tackle, plays guard, and he's versatile guy. And really, this is a guy that just loves what Brad Davis has really done. And that's been really a big reason into his decision to commit to LSU, because, I mean, you see what Brad Davis is doing with the two tackles they got currently right now, Will Campbell and Emory Jones. I mean, you can't really turn that down. And then you also look, say, hey, I have a chance to play on potentially one of the best offenses in a couple years down the road, because already LSU's got the number one quarterback in the country in Bryce Underwood and the number one running back in the country in Harlan Berry. So you get those two pieces, and you know LSU, they're continuing to build on a lot of the momentum offensively, obviously, with Jayden Daniels last year winning the Heisman Trophy. But we all know the skill players that LSU is trying to get, but getting a guy like Carius Kern, who's really highly regarded, chose LSU over a bunch of SEC programs, including Tennessee, Georgia, Missouri. So this is another offensive line commit. I believe that's their fourth. So join Brett Bordelon, Tyler Miller, and Devin Harper. So really, we talk about all the cool pieces, right, at the skill positions, but when you look at the job Brad Davis is doing recruiting, man, this offense can be really scary.
Switching from offense to defense, as far as the 2025 class, Carius Kern, not the only commitment they got from that class last week. They get Jesse Harold, the 6'5", 220-pound defensive end out of Tampa. He chooses LSU over teams like Texas A&M, UCF, Auburn, Miami. What do you think it was about LSU for Harold to commit? Because as thin as they are at defensive tackle, they got some depth on the edge.
Yeah, I think that's just really a really good conversation with Kevin Peoples. I think Kevin Peoples has done a really good job in getting him here. And, just looking at some of the type of pass rushers that have been successful with LSU over the last couple of years, I mean, they're long, they're rangy. He's that. I mean, you look at him, he's probably about 6'5". He probably does need to bulk up a little bit. I believe he's only about 220 pounds. But, I mean, he's got the tools already. And you see what LSU is doing and getting some of these pass rushers in. I mean, he's a top 10 pass rusher in the nation, a top 75 player overall. So, from Tampa, Florida. So this is a really good piece. And we talk about the offensive guys, right, but they need to get some guys on the defensive side. So that was actually a really good weekend to try to get some of these guys, especially on the defensive front, because that's what's been hurting for LSU. And it was a really good weekend from that standpoint, not only for the 2025 class, but for the 2026 class as well.
Sticking with the defensive line now, they got another commitment. This is not 2025. This is a year later from 2026. It's Richard Anderson, the four-star defensive lineman from right here in the state of Louisiana at Edna Carr. This is a massive human being, 6'4", 325 pounds. Outside of Jacoby and Guillory, you do not have anybody on your roster even close to that size. As far as Anderson's game, I know he's a guy that you followed pretty closely. What do you like about him?
Well, I got a chance to see him up close and personal in the spring game. And it was really basically a college coaches convention really there because everybody around the country was there really to see that spring game when you got two of the premier programs in Louisiana and Destrehan and the car go against each other. But just seeing him up close and personal, I mean, he is humongous. Like you mentioned, 6'4", 315 pounds, but he can move. I mean, he tracks down running backs. He's not only a guy that can block close the gaps. This is a guy that's a really good athlete, can go out and make some plays. So a guy that big with nimble feet like he has is going to be really, really interesting to see how he does. At LSU. But there's a couple other pieces in the car. I know they just offered Aiden Hall as well. He's a safety, also a class of I think it's a 2025. So there's some pieces there in the car, and they already got a wide receiver commit in Manchild, Teron Francis. So there's nothing wrong by going out there in New Orleans, and especially that program like in the car that's been really good.
You were talking about
10 years.
You were talking about the athletic ability of Anderson for someone his size. Speaking of athletes, Ja'Kai Anderson, he commits. He's the 3-star out of McDonough 35. Now, he's a guy that has drawn interest from a number of programs, whether it's safety or receiver.
Mm-hmm.
He's from the 2026 class. Where do you think he projects at the next level? Which side of the ball do you like him at?
I mean, I really like him on offense because, I mean, he is a guy, you know the term speed kills. You give him the football and good things happen because he's made plays, whether it's at wide receiver, DB, but he's also made some plays on special teams as well, return kicks, return punts. Like this guy can pretty much do it all. And you know how it is in Louisiana and getting elite wide receivers, but this guy, he can make a lot of plays. Just give him the football, throw out a screen to him and let him work. But he's very fun to watch. He's already a first-team All-State guy. Cortez loves him because they offered him last year, entering his sophomore year at that camp last year, entering his sophomore year. So there's a lot to like about Ja'Kai Anderson, and you know they McDonough 35. They definitely have produced a lot of really good players, and Ja'Kai could definitely be the next one.
As far as receivers go, Jace LeJuene from Gridiron Football, our guest right now. 5-star receiver Khalid Lockett didn't commit, but he announced when he's going to commit, and LSU is one of his top teams. He's taken visits there. He says he's down to Alabama, Florida State, LSU, Texas, and Texas A&M. He's going to commit here pretty soon. What do you think his chances are of landing in Baton Rouge?
I mean, it's going to be up in the air. I mean, Khalid came for that big visit in LSU a couple weeks ago. So it's going to be pretty much up in the air. But I think LSU's got a really good chance. Just seeing what they're able to do, be able to go there, visit with Cortez, visit with some of the offensive coaches at LSU, I think that was a really good look. And he set the date pretty much, his commitment date after his visits, you know, especially with the visit at LSU. So that's pretty encouraging. And you just see what LSU was able to do the last couple of years at wide receiver and sending some of those wide receivers to the NFL. So, I mean, you know, just from those conversations and how Cortez has been able to send guys like Malik Neighbors, like Brian Thomas to the NFL, just because of that, he really has, LSU is definitely going to be in the mix, and it's going to be intriguing to see where he ends up picking.
Now, Jace, it was not all positive for the Tigers last week. There was a lot of positives in there, but they lose a commitment from Jabari Antoine. This is a guy who's committed to the Tigers for a while now. He's the number 2 player in the state of Louisiana for 2025. Now, he says he's still focused on LSU as well as Miami and Florida State. What do you think LSU's chances of maybe trying to reel this guy back in are?
I still think very good, Taylor. I know a lot of people were discouraged with him to be committed from LSU. But, hey, a lot of times when you commit really early, sometimes you just want to see making sure you're making the right decision. You to go see other schools, go and see other programs, taking advantage of the recruiting process, right? So hearing your options out. But, I mean, LSU is definitely not going to be out of the mix by any means necessary because really, I mean, we talk about his relationship with the DB coaches, with Corey Raymond. Corey Raymond is from New Iberia, so that's where Jabari is, in New Iberia at Westgate. Westgate has produced a lot of great players that have gone to LSU, like Keyshawn Butte, for example. So that's going to LSU. But I really don't think LSU is out of it by any means. I think LSU is actually still really up there, and I think Jabari has even said that LSU is still really up there for him. So it's not like they're going to fall off the face of the earth. But it's a really good opportunity for him to go and see his other options, just weigh all his options and see where they may end up falling. But really, LSU's still in a really good place, I believe, with Jabari.
All right, Jace, before we get you out of here, I want to kind of shift to like on field instead of the offseason recruiting. Last time we talked to you, it was spring football, and we had talked ad nauseum about LSU needing to add a running back. Well, they did so, and it was John Emery. What are your thoughts on him returning to this team seems like he's been on the team for a decade now?
It seemed like it has. Definitely the most surprising storyline was him coming back to LSU, because it certainly looked like that he was going to spend his final year of eligibility maybe at a place like UCLA, as a lot of people were saying. So it came as a shock that he came back, but it's a really good, fortunate luxury to have him back, because it's almost somewhat of getting a transfer in. And I know we had a conversation last time, Taylor, about where LSU can really look in the transfer portal, right? Running back was probably an option. You can really say that really is a transfer portal option with him coming back, believe it or not. So getting him back, giving another running back in the rotation, because you already got Caleb, you got Josh, Caden Durham, the freshman, coming in, and with the situation with Trey, it's really good to have a guy like John who's played in the SEC, has made some plays, has showed some flashes in the SEC. So I think that is really good that he does come back to LSU.
All right, Jace, I've kept you way longer than I needed to, but thank you so much for hopping on.
Oh, absolutely, Taylor. Anytime. Thanks, my man. Have a good one.
All right, that was Jace LeJuene there with Gridiron Football. We're going to take a quick timeout, come back, wrap up hour number 1 on the other side. This is AFR.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by the Watermark Hotel and the Renaissance Hotel, two beautiful hotel properties in Baton Rouge, the Watermark downtown, the Renaissance Southtown right there on Bluebonnet. And when it comes to hosting your event, both the Watermark and the Renaissance are perfect. The Watermark is a gorgeous, elegant spot in downtown Baton Rouge. That wedding reception, that smaller gathering, that meeting space, they can do it. They've kept so much of the history and tradition of that iconic building while modernizing it. The Gregory is a great restaurant inside of the Watermark as well. And then, of course, the Renaissance Hotel, Southtown, right there on Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge. It's more modern. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous hotel property at the Renaissance Hotel, where they have meeting space that can accommodate up to 500 people, 7,000 square foot of meeting space, perfectly located right off of Bluebonnet and I-10. It's the Watermark and the Renaissance Hotels in Baton Rouge.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Brought to you by South Point Volkswagen, southpointvw.com. Y'all, it is a great time right now to get on by South Point Volkswagen, especially if you have if you're looking for a new vehicle, want to get the best deal for your trade-in. Right now, the trade-in and trade-up event going on at South Point Volkswagen. They have amazing deals. You can drive away in a Taos right now, the compact SUV, 0% for 60 months right now at South Point Volkswagen. Airline just north of Highland, southpointvw.com. Also great deals on Atlas and Crossport. They want your certified pre-owned vehicles, so get on by and trade them in at South Point Volkswagen.
All right, welcome back into the final segment, hour number one, a Friday edition of AFR. A lot to do in a little bit of time, so let's hop right into it with Around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference, the Georgia Bulldogs.
Georgia just gained a commitment yesterday from three-star wide receiver Landon Roldan, 6'1", 180 pounds, runs a 4.4 40-yard dash. Last season, despite being a three-star, really nice season in high school, 50 catches, 1,029 yards, 13 touchdowns, also 3 touchdowns on the ground, and where he's the best, probably as a returner. So Kirby Smart, heck of an athlete coming to Athens.
The Texas Longhorns.
We don't have a Texas drop yet. Okay, well, look, the start of the Jim Schlossnagle era with the Texas Longhorns. It'll include former Texas A&M Aggies commit Sam Cozart, who flipped recently to the Longhorns from Texas A&M yesterday, according to his social media. The 6'7", 235-pounder from Wesley Christian Academy out in North Carolina. He's a top pitching prospect for the 2025 class. He was originally committed to Mississippi State several years ago before joining Schlossnagle's class in College Station, and he will follow him to Austin, Texas.
The Florida Gators.
Florida picked up a big commitment on Wednesday from one of their top targets on the offensive side of the ball. It's wide receiver Joshua Moore, 6'3", 205 pounds, right there out of the state of Florida from West Broward High School. He committed to Florida over Florida State on Tuesday, just days after he was on campus in Gainesville. With Moore's commitment, the Gators now have 7 commitments in the class of 2025. He's actually the first receiver in that class, but Billy Napier and staff say they want to add at least 2 more wide receivers to the 2025 class.
The Ole Miss Rebels.
Ole Miss gained a commitment from 3-star defensive end Corey Adams Jr. He commits to Lane Kiffin. This comes on the heels of Ole Miss having 2 recruits decommit in 4-star receiver Jerome Miles and 3-star linebacker Corey Amos. But with Adams, they get a 6'4", 240-pound, strong-side defensive end from Edna Karr High School out here in New Orleans. He committed to Ole Miss over LSU, TCU, and Mississippi State. All right, that's going to do it for Around the SEC. We were LSU heavy in hour number one. Now, we did start out the show talking about the NBA draft. The New Orleans Pelicans, not 1 but 2 new selections added to their roster. They added Baylor center Yves Missi in the first round, and then yesterday evening, they trade with the Orlando Magic to take sharpshooter out of the University of Kentucky, the 5th-year player Antonio Reeves, 47th overall. Then we talked LSU football win-loss prediction. Pete Futek of College Football News has them at 9.5. All 3 of us here in studio, we feel like that's pretty fair. I kind of broke it down. Can LSU get to 10 wins, which might be their magic number to sneak into that college football playoff? Then just last segment, Jace LeJuene of Gridiron Football. LSU got 4 different commitments last week, 2 from the 2025 class, 2 from the 2026 class. We broke that down. And unfortunately, Jabari Antoine, the highly touted corner, decommitted from LSU last week. We broke all of that down. You can hear that on demand later. Coming up in hour number 2, we are New Orleans Saints heavy. We're going to talk about a possible former first-round pick that could be available the Saints may go after to strengthen up their secondary. Then Matthew Perez, Saints beat reporter for the Times-Picayune, is going to hop on. And then we're going to talk NFL segment of future Hall of Famers that are currently still in the NFL. A New Orleans Saints player made that list. That's all coming your way here in hour number 2. So we'll be right back with you here on the other side of this break. Hour number 2, Friday edition of AFR.
AFR.
We're brought to you by Supper Club. You book your reservation, supperclubbtr.com, supperclubbtr.com. One of the things about Supper Club that I love is if you want to go to Supper Club and be a baller, you can do it. You want to go to Supper Club and order a $5,000 bottle of Chateau Lafite Rothschild, you can do it. You want to go have $400 shots of cognac, you can do it. You can have experiences at Supper Club that usually are reserved for Las Vegas and New York and Paris and Abu Dhabi. Like, that's here in Baton Rouge. But the thing you got to remember as well, if you want to go to Supper Club and have the best steak of your life and have a few appetizers, a dessert, bottle of wine, you can do it as affordably as any other restaurant in town. But the experience at Supper Club is unmatched. Introduced open seating at the bar, first come, first serve. So if you knock off of work, you want to head by Supper Club, you can walk in without a reservation, see if you can grab a bar stool or a table by the bar as well. Have a great dinner, maybe cocktail, close some business. Book your reservation, supperclubbtr.com, supperclubbtr.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. The deadline for the Warriors to pick up Chris Paul's $30 million contract for next season was today, but ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reports the two sides have pushed that decision until Sunday so the team can keep looking at possible trade destinations for Paul. Woj also reports Raptors guard Emmanuel Quickley plans to sign a 5-year, $175 million contract to stay with Toronto. The drafting of Bronny James by the Lakers was reportedly orchestrated in part by agent Rich Paul. ESPN's Bobby Marks.
It's nothing new. Agents do this all the time. It's not just Rich Paul. And I think certainly when we get to the second round, it's not about best available. It's about who wants to sign a two-way contract.
Bobby Marks on Get Up. The Predators are planning to sign goaltender UC Saros to an 8-year contract extension worth just under $62 million. At the U.S. Senior Open in Rhode Island, Frank Bensel puts up back-to-back holes-in-one on the par 3 fourth and the par 3 fifth, but he'll miss the cut.
As humans, we like having options. One option you might like is speaking with a real person when you call about your credit card. With 24/7 live, U.S.-based customer service from Discover, everyone can talk to a real person anytime, day or night. Limitations apply. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
That's right.
Welcome into hour number 2, a Friday edition of AFR, brought to you by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Filling in for Matt Moscona, I'm Taylor Sharp. Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
And Alondra Villarreal. All right, thanks for hanging out with us here on a Friday afternoon. 2 hours left with you here in the work week. Hour number 1, giving you a little bit of a recap. We were LSU football heavy. We opened the show talking NBA draft, the latest with the New Orleans Pelicans, but we focused LSU, win-loss totals, recruiting. They got 4 commitments just last week, but want to shift our attention right now to the New Orleans Saints. So there is a former first-round pick who might be available in free agency coming up here, and it could really help the New Orleans Saints in a position of need, and I am talking about the safety position. So whichever site you look at, CBS Sports, ESPN.com, Last Word on Sports, they've all put out that Minnesota Vikings safety Lewis Cine could potentially be cut and not make this roster. Now, if you know anything about Cine, he's a former first-round pick from Minnesota back in 2022. Saints fans might remember him because his rookie year in 2022, he suffered a compound fracture in his leg against the Saints just 4 games into his rookie year. That obviously caused him to miss the rest of the season. It was on, I believe, the opening kickoff of that game against Minnesota. Look, he comes out of the state of the College of Georgia. He's a super talented guy. He was a multi-year starter at the University of Georgia. He won the national title. In 3 years at Georgia, he recorded 145 tackles, including a pair of interceptions. This is a talented guy, but for whatever reason, it has not translated to the NFL. Now, obviously, he's had injuries, but even before that, he's kind of been in and out of the lineup. He struggled to get on the field. This is a guy who's only played in 10 career games through 2 seasons in the NFL, and he's really just kind of been a glorified special teams player at best. Well, ESPN's Kevin Seifert says if he's cut, there's teams out there that could look at him. And, a lot of people have mentioned the Baltimore Ravens and, of course, the New Orleans Saints. Now, when you look at the Ravens roster, it makes sense for a depth standpoint, but I think it makes more sense for the Saints. And the reason why, I think the Saints are a lot more desperate for safety depth. When you look at the Ravens, they got Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams at safety. That's a really good starting safety duo, one of the best in the league. They could use that third option guy. Can Lewis Cine be that third option? Now, The Ravens have recently brought in Jamal Adams for a visit, the veteran safety, who we'll get to in a minute. That clearly shows that they're interested in some kind of safety help, whether it's a starter, whether it's a depth piece. When you look at the Saints, they have a strong secondary. I think the cornerback position, top to bottom, might be the best position on the field for the New Orleans Saints. By all accounts, Marshawn Lattimore is going to be on this team. Paulson Adebo's back. You still have Alontae Taylor. You spent a second-round pick on Kool-Aid McKinstry. He's looked really good in off-season camp for the most part. I mean, that's 4 guys you feel comfortable rolling out there. The safety position is another story. Last year, you spent a 5th-round pick on Jordan Howden. He was kind of thrown into the fire as a rookie, and he responded really well. I like Jordan Howden. I think that if you went into the season with Jordan Howden as your starting safety, I would feel just fine with that. You also have Jonathan Abram. You bring him over. He's a former first-round pick of the Las Vegas Raiders. He's had some good moments. He's had some bad moments. His NFL career so far has been pretty up and down, but 2 really talented players. Now, the Saints have showed that they have confidence in these guys because so far they haven't brought in any safeties. Lewis Cine, if he's available, he's a guy that you would not have to trade for, that you would not have to break the bank for. He would be a depth piece only. So if you feel good about Jordan Howden, you feel good about Jonathan Abram, Lewis Cine is a fine piece. But if it's not Lewis Cine, who could you go get? There are certainly some names and some big-time names in free agency in terms of the safety position. All the guys I'm about to mention, unrestricted free agents, the Saints could go get them right now if they want. The first name is Jamal Adams. We here in Baton Rouge obviously know Jamal Adams, the former LSU All-American. He was with the New York Jets for a number of years. He was with the Seattle Seahawks. He's made some really nice plays. At one time, Jamal Adams was considered a top 5 safety in the NFL. The problem is Jamal Adams has had a lot of injuries and his production has dipped. Jamal Adams would be a no for me right now for a couple of reasons. First off, the price that he would demand at this point in his career, he's a no. He is not that same player that he used to be. He is not a top 5 safety in the NFL. He's 29 years old, so if you gave him a big contract, how much longer could you get starter-level production out of a guy like Jamal Adams? Also, at this point in his career, he's nothing more than a glorified linebacker. I mean, he's always kind of been that box safety. He's always been better, even going back to his days here at LSU, closer to the line of scrimmage than he is in coverage. But that's probably where you're the strongest at the safety position. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu is your box safety. Now, I get it. Tyrann Mathieu's getting up there in age, but he's your most veteran guy back there as far as your safeties go. You probably feel better about him at this point than you do Jordan Howden and Jonathan Abram. Jamal Adams doesn't really feel that need. You would overpay for a player that's past his prime. What about Justin Simmons? This is the name that has probably been thrown around the most, has probably been linked to the New Orleans Saints the most. This one's interesting because he certainly has the talent. I mean, he's been one of the top 10 safeties in the NFL in terms of interceptions the last 2 or 3 seasons. He hasn't slowed down a ton, even though he's on the wrong side of 30. He'll be 31 by the end of next football season. He's a take all day. He's a complete safety. He can come up and make tackles. He can cover. He hasn't had any major injuries so far. You just saw what he did in Denver the last 2 years. You know he can still play. He's kind of the opposite of Jamal Adams. He would be a take. Problem with Justin Simmons. At this point in his career, I just mentioned that he's already 30 years old. He's going to want a big contract, but would he be interested in the New Orleans Saints is the question. It's kind of a gut check moment for the Saints when it comes to Justin Simmons, in my opinion. He's held out. He hasn't signed with anyone yet. I think he's looking for someone that he believes is a legitimate contender. And you got to think that he's not looking at the New Orleans Saints. And even if he is, they're probably way down on his list. He wants to go to a team at this point in his career because, look, he's made All-Pro. He's made Pro Bowls. We've talked about how he's one of the best safeties in the league. The only thing he has not done is had any postseason success. He has not won a Super Bowl yet. He's going to want to go to a team that he believes has a surefire chance of making it to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, that's just not the New Orleans Saints. Another name to take a look at, Eddie Jackson. Former Alabama player. He was great in Chicago for a number of years. He's also 30 years old. He will also be 31 by the end of next football season. He's a big-name player with a big-name price tag, not unlike Jamal Adams, not unlike Justin Simmons. I think he's in a similar situation as Justin Simmons, though. He hasn't had a lot of team success in his career. A lot of individual success. I mean, we've seen the highlight plays on SportsCenter with Eddie Jackson over and over and over. As LSU fans, we saw him at Alabama. He was a stud in college as well. Would Eddie Jackson be interested in playing for the New Orleans Saints? Now, this is not a bash the Saints segment. I truly believe that Jordan Howden and Jonathan Abram would be perfectly fine back there. Now, those are just the top, 3 names that I mentioned in free agency. Who else do you have outside of those guys? Because Adams, I think, is a no. I don't think it makes sense for the Saints schematically, money-wise, or age-wise. Justin Simmons and Eddie Jackson would be a take. I don't know if they'd be interested in you. Who else is out there? Jaron Kearse, who just had a solid season with the Dallas Cowboys. He's 30 years old. He'd be cheap. He made around $5 million last year. And, make no mistake about it, when I look at the Saints, I don't really worry about cap space that much because sometimes to their detriment, the Saints always find a way to make it work cap-wise. Kareem Jackson's out there, but he's 36 years old. Now, Keanu Neal's interesting. He's only 28. He's coming off of a pretty good year with Pittsburgh. We here in Louisiana have seen him play against the Saints for a number of years when he was with the Atlanta Falcons. But very similar to Jamal Adams and Tyrann Mathieu, he's an aging player and he's a box safety. It's what he's always been. He was that at Florida. He was that in Atlanta. Now, he was a very good box safety, but it was Ricardo Allen who was the deep safety in Atlanta. Keanu Neal, more of a nickel, more of that glorified linebacker. I don't really know if that feels the need for you defensively. So going back to Lewis Cine, again, he's only played 10 games. He's coming off of a significant injury. He might get cut. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad player. We know he has talent. We saw him play at Georgia. He was a team captain on a defense for multiple years that was the best in college football and won a national championship under Kirby Smart. He hasn't translated to the NFL. How much of that is talent? How much of that is due to injury? Sometimes a guy, all he needs is a change of scenery. Look at a Marcus Davenport. He didn't really work out here in New Orleans, at least not on a consistent basis. You trade him, he's had a nice career elsewhere. Just because you're getting cut doesn't mean that you don't hold value. If Peyton Turner got cut, I guarantee you some people would be knocking at his door trying to sign him. He's a former first-round pick as well. I like Jordan Howden and Jonathan Abram, whether they're starters, whether you sign a depth piece. You need someone. If you can't land one of these big-name guys, Lewis Cine is a name to keep an eye on for a possible depth piece. All right, look, we're going to take a timeout. Coming back, we're going to continue to talk New Orleans Saints. Matthew Paris, the Saints beat reporter for the Times-Picayune and the Advocate. He's going to hop on with us when we come back here on a Friday edition of AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by River City's 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. 752-0001, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. I love sharing 5-star Google reviews. Here's one from Ricky Gomez, who said Chris, his technician, was very professional and knowledgeable during the HVAC evaluation. He provided details and recommendations in a clear and concise manner. That's one of the things that always stands out. If you're having an issue with your AC or your heater, and River City's 1 Hour Air sends out a technician for an evaluation, they're going to explain your options to you. And that may sound simple, but none of it, I don't know anything about an HVAC, neither do you. Let's be honest. So whenever they go get up in your attic or they go look at your HVAC unit on the side of your house and they come talk to you, they're going to explain very clearly what's happening and your options to remedy it. It's River City's 1 Hour Air. Look for the big yellow vans and trucks with the giant clock on the side. 752-0001.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Brought to you by Parish Restoration. Parish Restoration. I've told you before about Mold Zero Pure Restoration. Now, Parish Restoration, all the same thing. Patented non-toxic dry fog treatment. Parish, Jim Woodworth, who I've told you about for years now. Jim Woodworth merged with my guys Richard Tilley and Ryan Terrio, all under the Parish umbrella. So it's Parish Restoration, patented non-toxic dry fog. It's been actually pretty remarkable to hear some of these stories of people who have put out to bid, for remediation contracts, and they get the number from Parish Restoration, and they'll call and say, "Is this number right?" And they explain why. I say it often. It is a more cost-effective, more efficient way, and also of remediation, and also because it's a dry fog, you're not cutting sheetrock or pulling out carpet or taking things out of your home or your place of business. They spray the fog, they let it dwell, it dissipates, you're back in free and clear and mold-free. It's Parish Restoration. ParishBuilt.com.
What?
Nothing like water to get you started here on Friday. Taylor Sharp here with you, filling in on AFR for Matt Moscona. Teased to going into break. We're going to talk a lot of Saints this hour. And, I was on NOLA.com the other day, and I see a piece, Matthew Paris. And I was like, well, I got to have our guy on. He's a busy, busy man, Saints beat reporter for the Times-Picayune and the Advocate. Matthew, what's going on today?
Oh, nothing much. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at one of your articles you put out recently, and it was the top 10 make-or-break players for the Saints in 2024. Excellent article, and a lot of the usual suspects were on there, but I wanted to highlight a few because you had Trevor Penning and Taliesin Fuaga on that list. We heard a lot about them, in off-season camp, mini camp, all that. Fuaga playing left tackle, moving Penning over to right tackle. What are your thoughts of that tackle duo going into 2024? How has each of them looked?
Yeah, I think they're pretty big bets. For Fuaga, I like it. I get the rationale of moving him to left. You use the 14th overall pick, but we won't really know until the game starts whether that actually will hold up okay. He's looked pretty good from what we've seen in, mandatory minicamp and OTAs. It looks like he has the athleticism to play there, but until the pads go on and the games start, we really don't know, but I get the rationale behind it. Penning, same thing, but in terms of, they want a fresh start with him. They felt like moving him to right tackle is the best way to do that. Bringing in a new offensive line coach and changing the scheme, they feel like will benefit him. I will say, I think Penning has looked a lot shakier than Fuanga. There's still moments where he falls to the ground, where his lack of control doesn't really seem to be there. Kind of the flaws in his games in the past still seem to be there a little bit. Now, they've said all the right things. They're trying to build him back up. He seems to be in a good place mentally, but that one I'm going to really have to wait and see, even more so than Fuanga.
As far as Penning goes, though, Matthew, I mean, they kind of have to get this right. They've already moved him from left to right. I mean, if he doesn't work out at right tackle, what are their other options?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge year for him personally. This is the third year of his career. If you really can't prove you can play at this point, I mean, we'll see what his future in the league is if it doesn't go that way. Now, I will say I do think they have a few backup options. If it doesn't work out, the obvious one is you just move Fuanga back to right tackle. That's where he played in college, and you try and figure out left. Now, they don't really have a solid backup left tackle, so that would be a problem. But, you could also play a guy like Oli Udoh there. He played right tackle in Minnesota. They signed him in this offseason as kind of this versatile offensive line piece. They still have Landon Young, who filled in for Ryan Ramczyk last year. And, I guess Ramczyk is also theoretically a possibility, but I would be really surprised at this point if he were able to return. But, I think Udoh, Fuanga, and Landon Young would be kind of your backup options there for right tackle if Penning doesn't work out.
Matthew, all off season long, all the talk has been Clint Kubiak, the new offense. Everything's going to flow better. Everything's going to be more explosive. With a full off season under Kubiak, as far as, camps have gone, what have you seen that you've liked, and what still concerns you about this offense?
Yeah, I mean, I like what I've seen in terms of the versatility, the unpredictability of this offense. It really does seem like they are trying to incorporate some new things, whether that's using Taysom Hill as a running back more. The formations themselves are really condensed. It's not always super spread out. Try and have guys like creating space. There's a lot of pre-snap motion. A lot of these kind of modern elements you think about when you think about the NFL these days. This offense kind of has it. So I do think it's a positive. I guess the biggest kind of concern I want to wait and see is how does the offensive line look, and just also how much is this running game actually going to improve? Because as much as this offense has things in place that kind of boost the run game in terms of like wide zone scheme blocking and those sorts of things, is it going to be a smooth fit? Is Alvin Kamara going to have kind of this career resurgence? There are a lot of questions with this offense, but that's just because we don't know how things will kind of unfold.
As far as this tight end room goes, sticking with the offense of the New Orleans Saints, obviously Jawan Johnson goes down. Do you think Foster Moreau is ready for a bigger role coming in 2024?
I do and I don't. I mean, I think Jawan Johnson, depending on how this injury goes, if he doesn't have if he's just forced to miss training camp and is still going to be tight end one, I think they'll be fine. I think Moreau kind of is who he is at this point. He's been a veteran. He's kind of really filled this blocking role for them because they have other people who can also catch. A guy who's really caught my eye is Dallin Holker from Colorado State. They signed him as an undrafted free agent. He's looked pretty good as a receiving tight end. We'll see about his blocking once the preseason begins. But I think he's kind of an option to maybe step up in Johnson's absence. And then they also have Taysom Hill that they can always use the tight end as well.
As far as this running back position goes, the conversation of Alvin Kamara and this ongoing contract negotiations, what are the latest around this? And if he, for whatever reason, holds out, who would be RB1 in this offense? Because honestly, Matthew, I've heard half the people say they've liked Kendre Miller. I've heard half the people say they like Jamal Williams. What's the deal behind Kamara?
Well, I do. To answer your second question first, I mean, I like how Kendry Miller's looked. I think he's pretty. I think there's a lot of room to grow there. I was pleased with what we saw from him last season near the end there in Week 18. But the pecking order so far has been Jamal Williams over Kendry Miller. The veteran has got kind of the priority here. Dennis Allen has said that they didn't really use Jamal Williams maybe the way that they should have last season, and they're trying to find more ways to get him involved. So we'll see how that order shakes out. As for what's happening with Kamara, it's, things are quiet right now, at least in terms of, there hasn't been much. I don't think there's been much publicly development with how his contract has gone. Maybe they're talking behind the scenes, but I don't know that for certain. So yeah, we'll see how that unfolds. He made a pretty big statement by skipping that last day of mandatory minicamp, but the Saints also made their statement by not reworking his contract earlier this offseason.
I mentioned earlier you've been a busy man with all of your offseason updates as far as the New Orleans Saints go. Look, you recently put out something about the QB rotation behind Derek Carr. It is no secret that Carr was banged up a ton last season. They still have Jay Kaner. They bring in Spencer Rattler. If Carr goes down, who steps up?
Yeah, I think of right now it's going to be Jay Kaner. They're going to give Spencer Rattler an opportunity here to try and seize that quarterback, that backup quarterback spot. But Kaner isn't going to take it. Just give it to him. He's looked really solid. He's had a really impressive offseason. He worked with John Gruden to kind of learn the ins and outs of this offense ahead of time and work with a bunch of passers down there in Florida. He seemed pretty sharp and pretty crisp. Seems like he has a good knowledge of this playbook. And, he's another guy that I talked about the importance of the preseason earlier. He had a pretty, I wasn't here in New Orleans a year ago, but from what everyone tells me is that he had a pretty good training camp. And then he admitted that he struggled once the games started. So he's going to have a lot more of a solid preseason to really seize this spot, but I think he's in pretty good position to do so right now.
Matthew Paris, Saints beat reporter for the Times-Picayune and the Advocate, is our guest right now. I want to switch to the defensive side of the ball here for a little bit. As far as the cornerback room goes, probably the most talented position on the team as far as depth goes, but what about the safety spot? You have Jordan Howden, you have Jonathan Abram, and then you have Tyrann Mathieu, who's more of that box safety right now. What could they add some depth in that room?
Well, they did sign Rod Teamer, who was a tryout guy for them. So I do think they were trying to add depth with that. One of their other backups, Fayon Hicks, got hurt. And so they signed Teamer to bring him in. But whether they, there's a lot of big name safeties out there right now. Like Justin Simmons is still unsigned. So I don't think they'll make like that sort of splash move. We'll see how they feel about their safety position. But I think right now they're going to give these guys a shot. Jonathan Abram and Jordan Howden, they're going to let those guys compete. Matthew has his spot locked down. But if you look at this position, it's not really a position that the Saints or really anyone in the NFL right now is willing to try and pay these huge amounts of money to. I think they're trying to go kind of cheap at that position or relatively modest rather, and they're going to let it shake out that way. So we'll see, but I do think they feel good about their depth.
Just one more for you before I get you out of here, Matthew. How big of a concern is the interior defensive line depth heading into the season? Brian Bresee obviously looked good as a rookie, but what have you made of that rotation?
Yeah, that's the one that I don't really know. Nathan Shepard had a really quiet year one with the Saints. He kind of underwhelmed. I know he came over from the Jets. They've signed Kendall Vickers, who was from the Raiders. He's gotten some opportunity with the starters in the spring as Bresee, kind of nursed back this injury, and Shepard wasn't at voluntary practices. They have Christian Boyd, who is their 6th-round rookie. He looks pretty solid. He's kind of that big run-stuffing tight end that, they lost Malcolm Roach to the Denver Broncos in free agency. I think he kind of is a one-for-one replacement in terms of that. But Oh, and then they have Colin Saunders as well, and he's a guy that I think is solid. He'll be asked. He'll probably be that other pass rushing defensive tackle to go next to Brzee. But yeah, the question for me with that group, or what I want to see from them, is I want to see Brzee kind of make that leap. And he played in I think every game last season, but he didn't have any starts. And so, can he be that every down starting defensive tackle? Can he see the field more? How much is his run defense improved? That's kind of the big question mark with that group. But I think they're fine at the position, but it's also not the deepest group on the roster.
All right, Matthew, I'll get you out of here, man. I've kept you on long enough. You're a wealth of information. Thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you.
That was Matthew Paris, Saints beat reporter for the Times-Picayune and the Advocate. Okay, look, we're going to take a quick time out. When we get back, CBS Sports put out an article. They wanted to make the call on the Hall of Fame for 12 current NFL players. Basically, these guys are in the twilight years of their career, and if they retired today, would they make the Hall of Fame? They have a New Orleans Saints player on that list. We'll get into that next here on AFR.
AFR.
Get Gordon and get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. You know where to find them. GetGordon.com. GetGordon.com. Proud to announce the newest member of the G team, Dominic McKinley, Tiger defensive lineman, 5-star from Acadiana, has joined up on the G team, and we're going to be lucky enough to have Dominic McKinley in studio with us soon, so we look forward to that. Also, Anissa Morrow, member of the Tigers women's basketball team, just did a sit-down with Gordon as part of the G team, so if you want to go check out that interview, it's up on social media at all the different platforms. Point is, Gordon's done a great job engaging in NIL with so many athletes, both male and female, across different sports and different universities, and giving them great opportunities and exposure. We're proud to tell those stories as well here. And if you've been injured in an accident, it's not your fault. Do what injured people in our state have done for 30 years. Go to GetGordon.com, GetGordon.com, GetGordon.com. You know what to do. Get Gordon and get it done.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Always a pleasure to tell you about our friends at the Williamson Eye Center. Check them out online at williamsoneye.com. They've got locations all over the greater Baton Rouge area. On the Baton Rouge General Campus, you turn off a Bluebonnet onto Picardy, you make that right, and then right there at the stop sign, the building on the right, the first 2 floors, that's the Williamson Eye Center. State-of-the-art dry eye center, and it's full service. Of course, they have their state-of-the-art surgery center there where you can have your LASIK or whatever surgical procedure you're having, but they have your standard annual eye exam as well at the Williamson Eye Center. Learn more at williamsoneye.com. The thing I tell you every day is take the advice that I was given and change your life. To give yourself the gift of sight is absolutely incredible. If you're someone like me who spent your life with contacts or glasses, there is a way to be done with it forever. WilliamsonEye.com. Go see Dr. Blake Williamson for that free consultation. 924-2020. 924-2020 or WilliamsonEye.com for the Williamson Eye Center.
All right, welcome back into a Friday edition of AFR. Taylor Sharp filling in for a vacationing Matt Moscona. Teased it going into break. CBS Sports put out an article looking at 12 players who are in the twilight years of their career, and if they retired today, would they be Hall of Famers? Now, we're not going to go through all 12 of these names because like Kyle Juszczyk's on the list. Obviously, no, he's a fullback. He's not going to make the Hall of Fame. Cam Hayward, no, obviously not going to make the Hall of Fame. But we are going to look at quite a few, and then we're going to end it on a current New Orleans Saints player. We're going to have a little discussion on whether or not he is worthy of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We're going to kick things off here, and I'm going to get the answer from Paul and Alondra just quickly, yes or no. Davante Adams, Hall of Famer, yes or no?
Okay, I'll go first. I'm going to go with no.
Paul?
I'll go yes.
Okay, I'm going to side with Mr. O'Neill on this one. I also think the answer is yes. I think it's debatable, but I'm going to go with yes. He proved everything he needed to prove, being able to do it without Aaron Rodgers. A lot of times, to a receiver's detriment, you say, well, they played with an elite quarterback their entire career. He played with Derek Carr, who he also played with in college. Last season, he was with Aiden O'Connell. He still had 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns last season with 103 receptions. He's been to 6 Pro Bowls. He's had 3 All-Pro selections. He led the NFL in touchdown receptions multiple years, which is always going to help his case. If he retired today, I think it's debatable. I do think it's yes, but by the time his career is over, yes, 100%. I think Davante Adams is in the Hall of Fame. We're going to stick with an aging receiver. Keenan Allen, Hall of Fame, yes or no?
No.
This one's tough for me. I'll say right now no, but I think if he can kind of resurrect his career in Chicago, I would lean yes.
I'm going to say no as well, and I love Keenan Allen. I have always been a big fan of his. Probably some of the best hands in the NFL, one of the best route runners, one of the most underrated receivers really for the majority of his career. And you look at it and you say, well, he's 26th all-time in career receptions. That's good enough for the Hall of Fame. He's top 50 in receiving yards. That's good enough for the Hall of Fame. Here's what kills Keenan Allen. He's never been a volume touchdown scorer. He had just 7 a season ago. He ranks 99th in the NFL in career touchdown catches. That's his issue. He's top 50 in yards and receptions, being 99th. If his career ended today, no. Like Paul said, if he's able to resurrect his career in Chicago, which he's getting older, he's playing with a rookie quarterback. They also have Rome Odunze coming in. You have DJ Moore there as well. Cole Kmet. They're going to spread that ball around. I don't know if the volume is going to be there enough for Keenan Allen. I think they're going to keep him out. I'm going to say no. Sticking with the receivers, this is Paul O'Neill's favorite player. I know he's a huge Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. Mike Evans, Hall of Fame, yes or no?
I think he would. Yes.
I say yes, too. No
Yeah.
matter how bad the Bucks have been, he has been a bright spot for that team.
I think this is a no-brainer. I think the answer is yes. He is the first player in NFL history, think about this, with 10 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. He's only been in the league 10 years. Every single year he's been there, he's put up 1,000-yard receiving. He had Tom Brady for 3 years, but he had Baker Mayfield last year. Nobody thought that would work. Guess what? Baker went to him time and time again, and it paid off for him. Jameis Winston, who was not good with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it did not matter who Mike Evans has at quarterback. He's going to put up numbers. He scores a lot of touchdowns. He's also one of just 4 players in NFL history with 750 catches, 10,000 receiving yards, and 90 touchdowns in his first 10 seasons. The other 3, in case you're curious, Jerry Rice, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Randy Moss. So not bad company to keep. He also has a Super Bowl ring to add on top of that resume. I think that one is pretty easy for me. Let's jump ahead a little bit and look at Matthew Stafford, because this article says no on Matthew Stafford, and I want to get y'all's opinion real quick.
I don't know. I want to say yes, but I don't know if he's quite there or if he'll even get there because he's, 36?
Yeah.
So I don't know on this one.
I say yes.
Yeah.
He was on some bad teams in Detroit.
That's true.
And he put up numbers.
Yeah.
I think this is an obvious yes. I mean, I don't know what else Matthew Stafford needs to do at this point. He's played 15 years in the NFL. 9 of those 15 years, he's had over 4,000 yards passing. 5 of the 6 years he didn't, he missed at least 1 game because of injury. So basically, every time he's played a full 16 to 17 game schedule, he's had 4,000 yards passing. He's in the top 10 in most comebacks in NFL history. And look, when he was in Detroit, everybody's like, he needs to get out of there. Like Paul mentioned, he's been on some really bad teams. He needs a Super Bowl ring. He got that. He's won the Super Bowl. He's thrown for the yards. He has the touchdowns. He has the comeback victories. If Matthew Stafford is not a Hall of Famer, Phillip Rivers isn't a Hall of Famer, Matt Ryan's not a Hall of Famer, I think Matthew Stafford's resume is better than both of those guys, and I think both those guys will ultimately get in. There's a lot of people, for whatever reason, that will say, well, Matthew Stafford still needs to do a little bit more. I think this is an obvious yes for me. And before we go to break, there's one more name I want to mention. I saved this guy for last because he is a current member of the New Orleans Saints. So Alondra and Paul, Cam Jordan, Hall of Famer, yes or no?
100% yes.
Absolutely. No question.
I don't even think that's a Saints bias, though.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
I don't think this is a bias question. I don't think that we're too close to this situation. I think, think about what Cam Jordan has meant for the New Orleans Saints as a franchise. He spent his whole career there, 8 Pro Bowl appearances, 4 All-Pro selection. He's been in the league for 13 years, and he averages 9 sacks per year for 13 straight years. He's also been relatively healthy at a position where you get banged up a lot. Marcus Davenport, never available. Peyton Turner, never available. And look at some of the injury woes that the Saints has had at that position. Cam Jordan has been a model of consistency. He's been a leader on this team for a number of years. He's had 6 seasons with at least 10 sacks. So 10 out of the 13 years he's been in the NFL, he's had, or 6 out of the 13 years he's been in the NFL, he's had 10 sacks. Half of the time he gets double-digit sacks. He's had a career-high 15.5 sacks back in 2019. Again, I don't think we are being biased on this at all. You look at his leadership, you look what he does in the community, and I get that doesn't matter as much in the Hall of Fame, but I think playing your entire career with one franchise should matter at least a little bit. The only thing Cam Jordan is missing at this point is a Super Bowl ring. Now, is he going to get that? Probably not, at least not in New Orleans, if we're being honest, but not having a Super Bowl ring as a defensive end is not the same as we were talking about with Matthew Stafford earlier, not having a Super Bowl ring as a starting quarterback. I think Cam Jordan has done everything and then some to be in the Hall of Fame. I think this is a no-brainer. Look, that was kind of a fun little exercise. Wanted to kind of do more of a lighthearted segment, get everybody involved, kind of see how our opinions differ on a lot of players. We're actually split on most players. I think that Mike Evans was the only one and Cam Jordan was the only one that we were unanimous. Yes, it is always nice to have that discussion. All right, look, we're going to take a break. We're going to close out hour number 2 when we come back, and it's Alondra Villarreal's time to shine because we're going to hit Tigers in the pros on the other side of this break. It's a Friday edition of AFR.
AFR.
Buying or selling, commercial or residential, think real estate, think Darren James. And I would really encourage you to do this right now. Was texting with Darren over the weekend, and he shot me this text. The new Darren James app, the mobile app, is live. So in your app store, Android, wherever it may be, go search for the Darren James app. I always tell you about the website, agent225.com, agent225.com, agent225.com. Most user-friendly website in real estate. Well, now you got the Darren James app at the touch of a button there on your finger. You can search homes, preferred vendors if you need contractors. You can learn more about the market. You can leave a review, how to hire a real estate agent, why. Some great information there on the app. Would highly, highly, highly recommend. You can also chat with Darren on the app. There's a little text button there in the bottom center. So download the Darren James app right now in your app store, or just log on to agent225.com, agent225.com. If you're selling your home, you need the best. You need Darren James.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Quick reminder about Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. They're the best. If you are, gentlemen, thinking about popping the question and you're thinking about where am I going to go buy that diamond, I want you to consider this. There are places that will sell you man-made lab diamonds, but what are you buying? It's according to its makeup and characteristics, sure, diamond. But is it going to hold its value? Like, is that the way you want to say, I love you, I want to spend the rest of my life with you? Go to Lee Michaels. Go to Lee Michaels. Walk in the door. Experience the thing I talk about all the time, which is the Lee Michaels experience. It's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry with 10 locations. Baton Rouge, 2 locations in Baton Rouge. New Orleans, Lafayette, Shreveport, Mississippi, Texas as well. 10 locations across 3 states. It's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Thrill her, gentlemen. Thrill her with a gift in the red box from Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry.
All right, welcome back into a Friday edition of AFR. Taylor Sharp sitting in the host chair, filling in for a vacationing Matt Moscona. We are rolling right along here on this Friday. In hour one, we were very LSU football heavy. We also recapped the New Orleans Pelicans in the NBA draft. Not 1, but 2 NBA draft picks. Yves Missi, the center out of Baylor, and Antonio Reeves, the sharpshooting guard out of the University of Kentucky. Then we talked some recruiting, some LSU win-loss totals. And then this hour, it's been Saints heavy. We talked a lot of secondary. We were joined by Matthew Paris of the Times-Picayune and The Advocate. He gave us his thoughts on the offense as a whole heading into the 2024 season. And then just last segment, we did kind of did a temperature check on a couple of guys who are borderline Hall of Famers. Cam Jordan was on that list. Surprise, surprise, all of us unanimously said yes on that. So we are wrapping up hour number 2 of a Friday edition of AFR. And right now it is Alondra Villarreal's time to shine because it is time for Tigers in the Pros.
Tigers in the Pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
All right, the Astros, they got off to a rough start this season, but they're picking up at the right time. You know, it's getting close. I mean, I guess it's still June, but I don't know. Getting a little close toward the end of the season, probably like the last leg of it. On Wednesday, they took down the Rockies 7-1. Alex Bregman, though, struggled at the plate, had a bit of a rough night. He went 0 for 5.
Did he have a rocky night?
Yeah, I guess you could say that, yeah. T-Ball would love that.
That was a good one. That was a good one, Alondra.
Ugh. Anyways, went 0 for 5 with a strikeout, but he did score a run. He's now averaging 253 on the season. Astros will take on the Mets in New York at 6 p.m. today. Like I said, they are now over 500. They're not under 500 anymore, winning percentage-wise. So getting hot at the right time.
Well, and also, like, I understand that he's only batting 253. For a while, he was under 200. So
exactly.
I get it.
Yeah.
He went 0 for 5. He's at 253. For Alex Bregman, that's not great. He was batting like 140 at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, he's picking it up too. DJ LeMahieu and the Yankees and the Mets faced off on Wednesday with the Mets getting the 12-2 win. LeMahieu went 1 for 4. DJ continues to struggle this season, but he's just 1 for his last 11 at the plate, batting 178 so far this season. So DJ's got to pick it up kind of like Alex did.
I mean, he's a guy that's almost a career 300 hitter.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I think he's batting like 298 for his career, whether it's with the Rockies or the Yankees. I think he's going to turn this around.
He will. Aaron Nola, the Phillies are set to take on the Marlins tomorrow afternoon, and former Tiger Aaron Nola will be on the mound. Nola's currently 9-3 on the year with a 3.39 ERA. Phillies are playing well, sitting at 53-28 currently. Nola's last outing was back on June 24th against the Tigers. He threw 7 innings, striking out 6 while giving up 6 hits and 1 earned run.
This just in, Aaron Nola, good pitcher.
Yeah. This is just a breaking news. In case you didn't know it, Aaron Nola, pretty good at pitching. Also pretty good at pitching. That's a bit of an understatement. Paul Skeens.
Heard of him.
He's going to be on the mound tomorrow when the Pirates travel to Atlanta to take on Paul's Braves. Sorry, Paul.
Paul, I hope your Braves do not score a single run, and I mean that sincerely.
And they probably will not. Skeen has a 4-0 record with a 2.14 ERA this season. Skeen's last outing was back on June 23rd against the Rays, and we talked about this. This is probably the 3rd time we're talking about this on June 23rd against the Rays. Good win, 7 innings, 8 strikeouts with just 1 run given up.
It's Paul Skeens.
Paul
Skeens
good. Going to do Paul Skeens things. You know what I mean? You want me to hit these Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
go
Justin
right ahead.
Jefferson, he recently led CBS Sports list of the top NFL players 25 and under, put out by Cody Benjamin. Benjamin wrote, Jets missed literally 40% of the 2023 season and still topped 1,000 yards receiving for the 4th time in 4 years. He remains one of, if not the toughest wideout to guard in all of football, and his effortless explosion turns routine plays into potential home runs. The undeniable face of the Vikings after less than a half decade of NFL play, Jefferson is already on Hall of Fame trajectory, and I'd have to agree with that. I really would. Jamar Chase, whom Jefferson teamed with at LSU, came in at number 3.
All right.
And I think I have time for this. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, Fanatics and Funko just dropped 2 brand new exclusives.
A Funko Pop?
Yeah, Jalen Hurts Philadelphia Eagles Funko Pop and the Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase Cincinnati Bengals Funko Pop 2-pack. So that's pretty cool. I kind of want to get one.
I don't know. I've seen the Funko Pops. I don't have any. If I got
any,
one,
yeah.
it would be the Burrow Chase 2-pack.
Yes.
Look, I get that Justin Jefferson is having a heck of an NFL career. He's got to feel a little left out with Chase and Burrow tearing it up with the Bengals. I mean, they got the commercials together. They do the 2-pack. Funko Pops together.
Yeah, that's true.
And Justin Jefferson's now hanging out with Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. So he's going to get his, but I know that Justin Jefferson feels a little bit left out. All right, look, that's going to wrap it up for hour number 2. We got one more hour left with you. You're not going to want to miss it. Wall-to-wall sports for one more hour here on AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by Shawbills Tire and Auto Service, ShawbillsTire.com. 18 locations in South Louisiana. Find the location nearest you at ShawbillsTire.com. Bumper-to-bumper auto service and name brand tires at wholesale prices. They will always find a way to get you the best possible price for the best possible tires on the road. That's what they do at Shawbills. And when they get you in by selling you the best tires at the cheapest price possible, they're going to treat you like family, and they're going to treat you so good you're going to keep coming back year after year after year every time you need anything for your vehicle. Tires rotated, oil changed, check engine light on, brakes squeaking, whatever's wrong with your vehicle, bring it to Shawbills. Let them give it the once-over, and you can always schedule online, so it's convenient. ShawbillsTire.com. Find the location nearest you at ShawbillsTire.com. Shop tires online at ShawbillsTire.com. Be sure to ask about the Shawbills credit card as well, because you can save $50 off your first purchase when you use the Shawbills credit card only at Shawbills.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Adrian Wojnarowski reports the Warriors and Chris Paul will take until Sunday to explore possible trades. The original deadline was today to guarantee the $30 million on Paul's contract for next season. Woj also reports the Mavericks get guard Quentin Grimes in a trade with the Pistons. Detroit gets guard Tim Hardaway Jr. and 3 second-round picks. Now that the Lakers have drafted LeBron James's son Bronny, what happens next? ESPN's Jay Williams.
A lot of this league is about fit, and a lot of this is also around the opportunity around Bronny for what it does to LeBron. Now that we drafted your son, LeBron, where are you going? Are you going to give us a family discount? How do we move this ball forward?
Jay Williams on Get Up. Today, it's the first round of the NHL draft. Coverage at 7 Eastern on ESPN. The Sharks hold the first pick. They're expected to take Hobey Baker winner Macklin Celebrini from Boston University. Celebrini is the youngest player to win the Hobey Baker. He turned 18 just 2 weeks ago.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Commercial Insurance. It flexes to fit your business's needs. From quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options, Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
That's right.
Welcome into hour number 3 of a Friday edition of AFR, brought to you by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Matt Moscona on vacation, filling in the host chair today. I'm Taylor Sharp. Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
And not the French way that T-Bob says it, but Alondra Villarreal.
Not even French.
Well, first off, your name is very obviously Spanish.
Yeah.
Like, even, first off, you've told him, but secondly,
Yes.
reading it, T-Bob thinks it's French, but I will give my guy credit. It actually does sound pretty good. Anyways, Alondra, Paul, Taylor, we are hanging out with you for another 60 minutes or so, driving you home here on this Friday afternoon. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hour number 1 was very LSU football heavy. Hour number 2, very Saints heavy. We're going to continue our football discussion, but we're going to look at college football as a whole. Athlon Sports recently put out a preseason top 25 poll. We're not going to break down the entire top 25, but I do real quick want to take a look at the top 10. For what it's worth, LSU did not make the top 10, but they did come in at number 11, so just outside of that top 10 range. Number 1, if anyone's shocked, to go ahead and stop me. The Georgia Bulldogs come in number 1 on this list. This makes total sense to me. Every ranking you look at, every mock draft you look at, Carson Beck is considered the premier quarterback in all of college football. He was excellent last year. He's now in his second year under center. Should be even better than he was a year ago. Now, they lost a lot of talent, as Georgia does, but with Nick Saban out of the picture, Kirby Smart kind of sits alone in the hierarchy of coaches in college football, right? And he recruits with the best of them. You know he's going to have that O-line and D-line elite this year, as they are every single year. If there was a concern about Georgia for me, it would be their playmakers on the outside on offense. You lose Ladd McConkey. He was a high second-round pick. You lose Brock Bowers, the first-round tight end, who honestly was probably the best overall player in college football. I get that the tight end position ain't going to win the Heisman Trophy, but if you want to talk about best all-around athletes, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better one last year than Brock Bowers. So you lose all of those guys, but I don't think it matters, and here's why. McConkey missed multiple games because of injury. McConkey actually missed most of the season. Brock Bowers misses most of the game, multiple games because of injury. It didn't matter a season ago. I don't see why it would matter here. Now, you do have Lovett at wide receiver. He is a solid SEC wide receiver, nothing to write home about. But when you have an offensive line as good as Georgia and a quarterback as good as Carson Beck getting you the football, you're going to be fine. Also, at tight end, I get it. You cannot replace Brock Bowers. But Oscar Delp's going to do the best he can. And when he filled in last year for an injured Brock Bowers, he played really well. I mean, that offense was still very effective. He was a very nice safety valve for a Carson Beck. He's back. He's a year older. He's a year more experienced in the Kirby Smart system. I think this is a no-brainer of Georgia being number one. Moving on to number 2, this is my first disagreement of this list, and trust me, I have plenty. Athlon has Ohio State at number 2. Look, I love Ohio State's defense. They are going to be very good. They have playmakers at every single level of that defense. And on top of that, they add Caleb Downs, the Alabama transfer at safety, who might be the best safety in all of college football. They bring in Quinshon Judkins to help the running game. So you shore up that position as well. For me, it's the quarterback position. Can you trust Will Howard to get this team where they want to be? I don't know. I think the answer is no, or maybe the answer is not yet. In 4 years at Kansas State, he threw for 5,700 yards, 48 touchdowns, 25 interceptions, completed 58% of his passes. He is a solid, good college quarterback. He is not great. Look, it's the offseason, right? It's hot take season. I'm going to throw one out there to you, and I don't even know if this is that hot of a take. Hand up right now, I think Julian Sayin is already the best quarterback on this roster for Ohio State. I think he should get the starting game 1. But they're going to go with Will Howard. By all accounts, something may happen. But what was the complaints of this offense a year ago? It wasn't the playmakers. It wasn't the running game. You're going to have that. You're going to have a Quinshon Judkins. The main complaint was, well, you know, Kyle McCord's not an elite enough passer to run this offense as efficiently as it should. Is Will Howard a significant upgrade from Kyle McCord? He might be an upgrade, but I'm not sure that this offense is just going to do a 180 and Will Howard's going to throw the ball all over the yard. I just don't see that happening. Again, he is a solid college quarterback. He is not a great college quarterback. I think that's what's going to hold Ohio State back this year. Moving on to number 3 in the preseason top 25 ranking for Athlon Sports. It's the Oregon Ducks, and this is who I would have as my number 2. I get it. They lost a ton of players on offense. You lose Bo Nix, you lose Troy Franklin, you lose Bucky Irving, who was one of my favorite running backs in the draft. I thought he slipped a little bit. But Dan Lanning did a great job of replacing those guys. You bring in Dylan Gabriel. Is he as good as Bo Nix? We'll see. I don't think so, but he's dang close. He's played a lot of football games. He's won a lot of big-time games. You bring in Evan Stewart, who for the past couple years has been the lone bright spot on that Texas A&M offense. And you still have Jordan James at running back. Bucky Irving got all the headlines. He made all the big plays, but I mean, Jordan James had almost 700 yards rushing a year ago. He was a really solid running back in his own right. That defense should be really good. They bring in 6 transfers on that side of the ball, including Jabbar Muhammad at corner, who was shut down last year at Washington. He was probably the most highly touted corner in this transfer portal. Dan Lanning gets him to come over to Oregon. At number 4, they have Texas. I would probably have Texas over Ohio State as well, because Quinn Ewers is the X factor for me. I know what I'm going to get from him. I think he actually has a chance to be better this year than a year ago, but I thought he was fine last year. You add Isaiah Bond. He was a big get out of the transfer portal, because you lose Xavier Worthy, you lose A.D. Mitchell. Those guys went in the top 2 rounds of the NFL draft, but you get a guy like an Isaiah Bond, who was really Alabama's lone bright spot as far as wide receivers last year. You're going to have a solid defense. You're going to have a really good defensive line. I think Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers have gelled well together. He's another year older in this offense. I would have Texas at 3 personally. At 5, they go Ole Miss. Now, we talked about Ole Miss a little bit earlier when we broke down LSU's schedule. I can't put Ole Miss at 5. I think Ole Miss is going to be really good this year. I think there's a chance Ole Miss could beat LSU this year. I can't put Ole Miss at 5. I can't trust Lane Kiffin. Look, I like Lane Kiffin. I think if somebody asked me, would you want Lane Kiffin as part of your football program? I would say as an offensive coordinator, absolutely yes. As a head coach, the jury is still out for me. He's burned me too many times. He was great last year. So far, that's kind of been the outlier for him. What have we seen from Kiffin? He's had a lot of good. He's been shaky at times. He's dropped some games he shouldn't. Now, this is the most talented team he's ever had at Ole Miss. You lose a talent like Quinshon Judkins, that's okay. You replace him with Logan Diggs. Jackson Dart, a third-year quarterback in your system, which is already very quarterback-friendly. He took a big step forward last year. Can he take another step forward this year? I think they're going to be a really solid team. I think they're going to be right in the thick of the playoff picture come season's end. I cannot rank Ole Miss in the top 5 preseason. I can't do it. At number 6, this is where Athlon has Alabama. The lack of weapons on the outside is a big concern for me because it was a big concern last year. We talked about this last year. A year ago, they went through the same thing. And I just mentioned that they lost Isaiah Bond, who was their best receiver a year ago, to Texas. I'm not as high on Jalen Milroe throwing the football as most people are, but even if you think Milroe is going to take a step forward as a passer, excellent. Who's he going to throw the football to? I expect a run-heavy approach from Kalen DeBoer because Milroe's a great runner. You have Justice Haynes. You have Jam Miller. But also, we haven't seen Kalen DeBoer have to do this without offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb in a very long time. He's going to have to do that this year. We've talked about some of the players that have transferred out of that program. I just mentioned Caleb Downs at Ohio State and Isaiah Bond. I think Alabama is going to be a really good team. I don't know if they deserve to be preseason top 5 or 6. No more Nick Saban is huge. Kalen DeBoer is a fantastic football coach. He has won everywhere he's been. I think he's going to win a lot of games at Alabama. He is not Nick Saban. Nobody is Nick Saban. So you can take away, okay, he lost Isaiah Bond, throw that out the window, don't care. They lost Caleb Downs, throw that out the window, I don't care. Losing Nick Saban is the biggest thing to me. That is the one person who is irreplaceable. At number 7, they have Michigan. I get that they're the defending national champs. This may be a little high for Michigan as well. They're going to have a really good defense. The offense is going to be a bit questionable for me. I mean, Alex Orji is set to be the starting quarterback for this team. He came in some run situations. He did some nice things. He showed his athletic ability. We have not seen any indication for or against. We haven't seen it at all of his ability to run this offense as the everyday starter. Also, Sharon Moore is his first year coaching this team. Now, because of Jim Harbaugh's feud with the NCAA last year, we were suspended multiple games. Sharon Moore was that interim head coach for multiple games, and he did good, but taking that interim tag off and having to deal with the day in, day out of head coaches, that is a lot different. I think they're going to struggle this year, at least offensively. I still think their defense is going to be solid. Because not only do you lose J.J. McCarthy as a first-round pick, you lose Roman Wilson, who I think was a really underrated receiver. You lose Blake Corum, who may have been the best running back in college football a year ago. Now, you keep Donovan Edwards, but is Donovan Edwards' production enough to replace all 3 of those guys? That's going to be the biggest thing to watch for Michigan, at least going into the 2024 season. At 8, they have Penn State. This is just a question of, can James Franklin get over the hump? He's got Drew Aller in there, who was underwhelming his first year as a starter, but they like him. They poured a lot into him. He was a 5-star coming out of high school. Everyone around that program says that this is the guy to take him there. James Franklin's biggest issue is he hasn't been able to get over Ohio State and Michigan. Michigan's breaking in a brand new quarterback. Ohio State's breaking in a brand new quarterback. Michigan has a brand new coach. If James Franklin cannot get over the hump this year, then I don't think he's going to do it at Penn State. Because I think Ohio State and Michigan are more beatable for Penn State, the combination of the two, than they ever have been in the past. We'll see if he can get it done. At 9, Notre Dame. Is Marcus Freeman an elite college football coach? I don't know. I think the jury's still out. I would venture to say no, but you know he's going to have a good defense. They're going to be super salty. They improved at receiver. They added Bo Collins from Clemson. That was a big issue for them a year ago because Sam Hartman was a good quarterback. Their receivers could not get any separation. They added 2 receivers in the transfer portal, Bo Collins obviously being the biggest of those 2. I think they're going to be much improved at the receiver position. We know Riley Leonard can make plays with his feet. We've seen him show flashes as a passer. I think he's going to be behind a much better offensive line than he was at Duke. I think he's going to be fine. I think Notre Dame, they're pretty much ranked appropriately. At 10, they have Missouri to close this thing out, and I think their offense is going to be good once again. You get Brady Cook back, you get Luther Burden. I have questions about this defense without Blake Baker. Earlier in the show, we talked about how they had like the 150th ranked defense. He took them to like the 115 and then like 38 in 2 years. That's a lot to replace. I think Blake Baker meant a lot to this program. They're still going to have a good offense. I think Missouri's way too high at number 10 with all the questions they have around them at defense. And again, LSU just missing the list at number 11. I think that's kind of appropriate. You lose Jaden Daniels, but Garrett Nussmeier slides in there. Are you going to be as good on offense as a year ago? No, but I think the combination of Joe Sloan and Garrett Nussmeier, they're going to be fine. I expect them to be improved on the defense. I think LSU coming in at 11 or 12, that's kind of where we've seen them. I think that's fine. All right, that was kind of, just a look at the top 10, where Athlons has people ranked where I kind of agreed and differed as far as the preseason top 10 goes. When we take a timeout, we're going to come back with Hunter McCann of WBRZ. You've also heard him right here Saturday mornings with Sports Shorts Radio, along with Ronnie Rance and Tommy Krysan. We're going to talk a little bit of everything. We'll get into some Pelicans. We'll get into some Saints. We'll maybe even talk some college baseball, get his thoughts on what he thought of the College World Series and the Texas A&M debacle. Hunter's a big baseball guy. We'll get into all that next here on a Friday edition of AFR.
AFR.
And when it is 94 degrees outside, I can't even imagine spending time outside during the Louisiana summers without a swimming pool. We got one in our house. I'll never own a home without a swimming pool again. If that's your dream, to have a beautiful custom pool built at your home, or if you had a pool that quite honestly just needs some upgrading, needs to be remodeled, you need Duplessis Builders. I'm going to give you the website. It's duplessisbuilders.net, duplessisbuilders.net. Y'all listen to this show for long enough, you know one thing about me. Especially when it comes to contractors, I'm never going to recommend to you the guy that's the cheapest. I'm going to recommend the guy that's the best. And that's the case with Duplessis Builders. Derek Duplessis, they're not going to cut corners. They will not compromise building standards to save a few bucks. At Duplessis Builders, they will walk away from a job before they put their name on something that is not to their standard. It's Duplessis Builders. If you aren't even thinking about building a pool, you owe it to yourself to give Duplessis Builders a look. DuplessisBuilders.net.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be, where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. You know, when we talk about Relief Windows every day, I always say windows, doors, siding, and now shutters as well. They do your indoor shutters. Same thing as the windows. Custom made, measured to fit your windows, custom fit for your windows, lifetime warranty on your windows, your shutters. But Brandon, you often hear say their number one product is customer satisfaction. And that's not just a catchy line. That's not a cliche phrase. Have an experience with Relief Windows and you'll understand. They go to the ends of the earth to make sure their customers are thrilled with the work they do. As a matter of fact, Relief Windows never takes $1 from you. You will not, no deposit, no down payment. They take all the risk. They will not take $1 until you're thrilled with the work they do. Who else does that? Only Relief Windows. Check them out online at reliefwindows.com.
All right, welcome back into a Friday edition of AFR. Taylor Sharp sitting in the host chair for a vacationing Matt Moscona. Right now, we're going to see where this segment goes. It could go Pelicans, Saints, LSU, college baseball. I say that because my guy knows a little bit of everything because he does a little bit of everything. Let's welcome in Hunter McCann with WBRZ. And you also hear him every Saturday morning right here with Sports Shorts Radio with Ronnie Rance and Tommy Kreis. And Hunter, what's going on, man?
What's up, man? Yeah, where are we going today? What are we going to be doing?
All right, well, look, you know, the biggest news, at least around here recently, has to do with the New Orleans Pelicans. They grabbed their big man with the 21st pick. It was Yves Messi out of Baylor. Little young, little raw, but super, super athletic. What are your thoughts on that pick? Specifically, how good of a fit do you think he'll be in New Orleans?
I think it could be a great fit. I think it's something New Orleans needs as an athletic center, something that you've really been trying to figure out a way to have since you no longer have Jackson Hayes, and that was the last time you really experimented with a guy that you would categorize as an athletic center. He's really impressive, though. He can finish around the rim consistently. Very good defensive instincts. He's got a great wingspan. He's like you said, he's 6'11", but his wingspan 7'2". He's a big dude that moves like he's a point guard, which is fantastic. It's something you need is a bunch of speed in the paint. Something that will probably go pretty well with the way that Zion Williamson plays in the paint as well. But I don't know if he's a guy that you plug and play immediately. Like you said, he's very young, very raw, and I think you have to give him a little bit of time to tap into that raw potential and bring it out at the next level in the NBA before you really know what type of draft pick you have here.
I guess that's kind of leading right into my next question. If he's not the answer at center at least this year, what do the Pelicans do? Do they roll with Larry Nance, or do you think they could sign a vet?
I think they need to sign a vet. I mean, I think you could go Larry Nance, but I feel like you're just wasting time and opportunity to start off the season if you don't go and grab a vet. I really like Nick Claxton, but yesterday my hopes of that were shot down when the Nets re-signed him. So I'm not really sure where you go to grab that vet. Maybe Clint Capella with the Hawks. Maybe you could put together some type of trade to be able to get him, but you have to find some type of veteran presence, or you're just not going to be able to develop Messi into a guy that you can have as a reliable center for the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm just not sure where the Pelicans need to look this offseason, but I don't think Larry Nance is the answer, or plugging in Messi immediately is a good idea.
As far as the second-round pick goes, they did not originally have a second-round pick. They traded with the Orlando Magic for the 47th overall pick. They kind of go the complete opposite of an Yves Messi because, with Messi, it's a physical post presence who has virtually no threat from the outside. Then you draft Antonio Reeves from Kentucky, who may lack a little bit on the defensive side, but is a green light shooter, and he shot 44% from three. What do you think of that pick?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, I don't think he's the answer to every mistake or every hole that the Pelicans have right now, but he's a guy that you could be able to bring off the bench, kind of what Trey did a couple of years ago, being able to bring him off in tough situations, and he can make some buckets for you. Like you said, his defense is lacking, but Reeves is very good from behind the arc and being able to drive into the paint and create open space on the other side of the perimeters to be able to move the ball around and find the right shot. So I think it's a great pick. I mean, I really think it really could have been the steal of the draft, getting him at the 47th pick, because, I mean, he was projected to possibly go late first, early second. So falling all the way to 47, I think the Pelicans did a great job by jumping back into the second round and grabbing him. I'm excited to see what he can bring, but I think he's going to be more of a six-man type presence.
You mentioned earlier possibly trading for Clint Capella with the Hawks. The Hawks have obviously been a popular trade partner, at least, suggested with the Pelicans. This leads me into Brandon Ingram. What do you think the Pelicans do with him? What does his future look like?
I've said it all. I've said it since the end of last season. I've said it even before the season was over. I mean, you got to trade the guy. I mean, it sucks. I like Brandon Ingram. I really do. I think his heart really is into this team, but you're just not getting what you're paying for, and it's about to get even more expensive for Brandon Ingram being with the Pelicans. So I think it's time to cut bait. He's been too inconsistent. He's injury prone, and we already have enough of that when it comes to Zion. I mean, you can only have one injury prone player on your team. And last year, he took a hit, Zion took a hit, and C.J. McCollum all took a hit all at different times, and it spiraled it just slightly out of control, just enough that you don't end up making a postseason run. You were that close after having one of the best, or the best regular season you've ever had as a franchise, and it just all goes away because of injuries. But David Griffin made some comments yesterday about how bad Brandon Ingram really wants to stay with his team. Him and his agent believe this is the best place for him, of course, and that's obviously because if he stayed here, he's going to be making a lot more money than if he goes anywhere else, to be honest with you. But I do believe that he wants to be playing in New Orleans. I'm just not sure that's the best option for the program. But it sounds like they're going to revisit the idea one more time, see if they can work out a deal, something that is a financial reality for both the Pelicans and for Ingram, and then see where it goes. But I think he's gone. I think he probably should be gone. I think it's time to get as much value as you can out of him now, because I'm afraid you leave him on for a season, you start paying him more money, and you eventually want to trade him, you're going to get a bag of chips, and that's about it for Brandon Ingram. So now is the time to get rid of it. Go ahead and cut bait.
Look, we've talked about trading Brandon Ingram. We've talked about bringing in a veteran center. Outside of those two moves that both seem like they're destined to happen, what else did the Pelicans need after they made these draft picks?
Yeah, I mean, if you grab that veteran presence in the paint at center, now it's finding a true point guard and someone that's not a rookie, right? I mean, not a plug-and-play guy who just got in the draft or experimenting around. Like, you need to go and find yourself a true point guard. That's what the Pelicans lacked all last season, and it reared its ugly head so many times. You need someone who can lead you and create a threat on the perimeter to kind of create space for Zion in the paint, because if you really want to work your offense through Zion like it had been working in spurts last year, you need to have a guy that's a consistent threat and knows how to run an offense. And that's not C.J. McCollum. That's not Herb Jones. That's not Trey Murphy. That's not anybody that's currently on the staff. They're not a true point guard. So that's what you need to do is right now start putting out some feelers, find a trade, and get a true point guard in. And I think the Pelicans can be really good this year if you do that, because you're bringing back a lot of pieces, even without Ingram, assuming that he's not here next season. Even without Valanciunas, assuming that he's gone as well, you still have plenty of pieces and young pieces on this team that can be built into better pieces, but you need the veteran talent to be able to guide them to get to that point.
Look, sticking with the NBA draft, but kind of shifting away from the Pelicans, This has obviously been talked about ad nauseum before the draft, after the draft. What are your thoughts on the Lakers taking your guy, Bronny James, Hunter?
Oh, my guy, Bronny James. No, to be honest with you, it didn't come as a huge surprise, of course. I mean, that was the talk, but it comes to me, I think it's bad for Bronny James. And I say that as a guy that you look at it, he's just got drafted to an NBA team. That's fantastic, and his dreams are coming true, right? But it's bad for Bronny in the sense that I don't think he's ready for the NBA. Not that he will never be ready, because I think he has a lot of raw, untapped potential that needs development, and then he would be ready for the NBA. But I feel like he's being thrown into it too quickly. And if this experiment doesn't work and he's not ready for the NBA, it's just going to, the lights are going to be too bright for him, or anything that you might call it, whatever abbreviation you want to use. It's going to look bad on him, bad on LeBron. And I think you look back in, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years, if he's a bust, I think Bronny's going to kind of be upset that he felt like he didn't earn that spot on that team, that it was given to him by his dad, because he wasn't ready for it. So I kind of feel bad for the kid. It's not his fault, but I would have loved to see him stay one more year in college, or maybe go play overseas, or just develop his play a little bit more, because he really could be in for a rude awakening, I should say, coming into the NBA, just not being exactly ready for that position.
You know, so many people, Hunter, they've talked about, well, you know, this is a prime example of nepotism and all that. I get it. I don't care about that. I mean,
whatever.
Yeah, it happens all the time. I bring up Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones. Jeannie Buss. Jeannie Buss is a product of nepotism because of her dad, Jerry Buss. I mean, it happens all the time. My issue here is this was not a winning basketball move by the Lakers, and they've taken so much flack for that. What do you do? At this point, all you're doing is trying to appease LeBron James, and I get it. He's LeBron James, but you bring in an unproven, zero experience head coach at J.J. Redick because that's who LeBron James wanted. You draft Bronny James because that's who LeBron wanted, and then the story comes out that Rich Paul was telling other teams, hey, don't draft Bronny James. If you do, he's going to Australia. He's not playing for your team. My thing is, I feel like that does a disservice to the Lakers and Bronny, because let's say LeBron retires in 2 years, Bronny doesn't work out, the Lakers cut him, and these other teams aren't going to want him after that.
Well, that's my whole point why I feel bad for him, because I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Like, I think that this experiment will not work, if you want to call it an experiment, but the LeBron James-led Lakers, we've said that for years, right, that he was in charge, but now he really is in charge. I mean, the 39-year-old man basically just willed his son onto his team and willed whatever head coach that he wants into the program. And by doing so, now you set up Bronny James in a terrible situation that, like you said, that he is cut in 2 years, that he may not no longer be in the NBA or have to go down to and play in overseas or something like that and rework his game, something that he could be doing right now. So it may be bad for the Lakers, but I think in all reality, it's worse for the guy that's a brand new NBA player, which is crazy for me to say. Because, like I said, this was this kid's dream, but he's just not ready to live up to the dream just yet. I think it's just going to be too much for him.
Hunter, we've kind of ran a little long there. You got time for one more segment?
Yeah, dude, come on.
All right, cool. So, look, I know you're a big baseball guy. I want to kind of get your thoughts on the World Series, the whole Jim Schlossnagle debacle.
Oh, yeah.
So, look, we're going to put you on hold real quick. We'll be right back with you. We'll be back with more with me and Hunter here on a Friday edition of AFR coming up right after this.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's.com, Rouse's.com. Rouse's, tell you all the time, this feels like home. Y'all are heading toward the 4th of July. If you're planning to have people over for the 4th, make sure you get by Rouse's. Everything you need, right? You want some meat for the grill? They got it at Rouse's. You want some waters and some drinks for the kids? They got it. You need the adult beverages, the cold pops, the great craft beer, or any of the fine spirits. Best selection you will find anywhere. There are nearly 70 Rouse's locations from Lake Charles to Orange Beach, Alabama, everywhere in between. One of the newest locations is not far from our studio on Florida Boulevard right here in Baton Rouge. So get by the Rouse's near you. Remember, if you're making groceries, go to the website or the app, hit the weekly ad tab. You'll see all of the discounts, all of the sale items at Rouse's this week. So you can save on that grocery bill. It's at Rouse's. They love to source locally. They love to be a part of the community. It's Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's, this feels like home.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year 100,000.
Don't write yourself off yet. It's only in your head you feel left out.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
We're brought to you by Optimize. Go to generatorpeople.com, generatorpeople.com. You want an automatic, a Generac automatic home standby generator? Let me rephrase. Of course you do. So why should you go with Optimize? 2 reasons. Number 1, the affordability. They have financing options to fit any budget, and you get your upfront quote price, meaning whatever they quote you on site. It's not like they're going to come back later and there's going to be fees and install fees and techs and no. Whatever that number is that they quote you, boom, that's it. Turnkey installation. When they're done, it is ready to roll if the power goes out. Number 2, that's all they do at Optimize. They're not a business, an electrical business that does 10 different things. They do one thing. They sell, service, and install Generac automatic home standby generators. They got 4 locations across the 1012 corridor. So it doesn't matter if you're in Lake Charles, Slidell, or any point in between. They are Louisiana's #1 Generac dealer. Optimize. Go to generatorpeople.com. Easy website, generatorpeople.com.
All right, welcome back into a Friday edition of AFR. Taylor Sharp sitting in for Matt Moscona. And we ran long with my guy in the first segment. I wanted to get his thoughts on college baseball. I know he's a big baseball fan, so we're going to welcome back in Hunter McCann of WBRZ. Hunter, while LSU wasn't there, it was a super competitive College World Series field. Yeah. What was your thoughts on the final that nobody in Baton Rouge wanted to see between Tennessee and Texas A&M?
be honest with you, it was definitely the two best teams, in my opinion, that had played baseball all this past year. And I thought the field of play across the entire College World Series is fantastic. I mean, first 3 games ended in walk-offs. I mean, you can't ask for more than that as a baseball fan. But when it's all said and done, I think Tennessee and Texas A&M were the two best baseball teams in the country. So it was exactly how it should have been, and it went 3 games. So I was pretty satisfied as a fan. Now, obviously, like you said, a lot of people around here not too happy over the two teams that were playing in it, and the aftermath of it all made it a little bit worse too.
Look, Tennessee getting that win. A lot of people questioned, can Tony Vitello break through and win the big one? He proved that he could. What kind of dynasty can he build out there in Knoxville?
Man, I don't know if dynasty is the word that I'd even associate with Tony yet. Obviously, I mean, you had, as a first-time head coach, I mean, you obviously brought this Tennessee team back from basically irrelevancy. I mean, he's done fantastic. Last year, probably one of the best baseball teams ever in college baseball, but couldn't get it done. Obviously, LSU does last year. But in this season, you have another remarkable year and get it done. He's a fantastic head coach. He brings a lot of energy, and the guys in Knoxville love him. I mean, after the game's over, he jumps to the stands and celebrates his fans. That's what college baseball is about. And that's what, I really like about college baseball. Is I don't need the head coach to be the most professional and monotone and upright dude standing in front of a microphone. I like the passion that comes with college sports. So I for one, like to see those type of things and a coach have emotion and celebrate with the Tennessee faithful. But I think that he is a fantastic coach, as I said, and he has the opportunity and the skill set and brains to be able to put together a fantastic team next year and the following years, because he's also fantastic at recruiting, and go on a run. I mean, he has the formula and he has the assets. Why not, But I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk. I think it's so difficult, obviously, to win SEC baseball. I would be very surprised if Tennessee went back-to-back next year, no matter how good you are. They'll make it back to the College World Series, I think, with the guys they have returning and the way they've already started hitting the transfer portal. It's great for the fans in Knoxville, but dynasty's not the word I'm using so far for Tony Vitello.
Hunter, Tennessee obviously takes down Texas A&M, and very rarely does the team that lost the national championship get all the offseason headlines, but that's what we've seen for the past week or so with Jim Schlossnagle getting up there, scolding the reporter for asking if he's taking the Texas job, saying no, and then 24 hours later actually taking the Texas job, and everyone seems to have an opinion on it. So what are your thoughts on the way that Schlossnagle left College Station?
Couldn't have happened to a better group of fans, man.
That was my thought.
No, but realistically, I think it's terrible for the sport. And the reason I say that is you could have a championship caliber team. That's what Texas A&M had. They had everything that they needed to win a national championship. You just fall one game short, right? It happened. But now you no longer have that team. You don't have the head coach. You don't have the assistant coaches. Players hit the portal so fast. Texas A&M fans and Texas A&M in general is in shambles, and it sucks. It does. It really does for just how quickly a program can be flipped on its head after a coach leaves. And especially the things that we're hearing now about how long this job has been considered from Schlossnagle. Like, this wasn't like something like he got a phone call the next morning, was offered a boatload of money, and he was like, I can't turn it down. This was something that had been brought to his attention right after the Texas job was available. Actually, technically right before, when there was word that the Texas job would be available, there was word, that he was interested in it, and they had some behind the scenes type discussions, nothing official, but you can't, I really just hated how he really kind of went at that reporter when he knows that question needs to be asked. As a journalist, like, that's a question that's a hard question that you have to ask. You have to ask that question to be doing your job. And he made that reporter feel like he was an idiot. And he was right to ask the question. And he knew the next day he was going to take the job, or at least within the next few days, that was a real possibility that he would be a Longhorn. So I lost a lot of respect for the guy, not just because he packed it up, but just because of the way he packed it up and left. But with that being said, Texas flexes his muscle once more and says, well, little brother, we're back, as they enter the SEC for the first time this coming year.
Yeah, Hunter, like when I listen to the Schlossnagle answer when he's asked if he's leaving Texas, the more you listen to it, the more bizarre it gets. Because not only does he adamantly deny it, but he gets up there and he says, look, I left my family behind to come be the coach at A&M. Like, bro, why'd you leave your family behind? You came from Fort Worth to College Station. It's not, I get that Texas is a big state. You didn't move halfway across the country. Like, he's like, your family didn't go with you. They're not going with you to Austin. Like, he danced around the whole question. I mean, you can kind of see it coming from a mile away.
He used the family card to make it even like the reporter should feel even worse.
Like, you're coming after me and my family. Yeah.
Me. Yes, that's what irks me, man. But so be it. Texas A&M's going to have to figure out a way to bounce back. It's not going to be an easy task. But welcome to the SEC, Texas. You made your mark nonetheless on the other side of the coin.
Hunter, before I get you out of here, just one more question. When is your next Disney World trip?
Believe it or not, I don't have one on the books.
I don't believe you. I do not believe you.
I know, man. I'm too busy. I don't know what to tell you, man. I get 2 months where I can take a vacation in June and July, and walking around Disney right now sounds like miserable how hot it is. I'm actually driving right now to New Orleans. I got a flight tonight. I got a wedding tomorrow. So if you want to call that vacation, you can. But no Disney World trip planned, Taylor. I hate to tell you, I won't be flying down to Tinkerbell. You and I used to talk about that at Disney World.
Where's the wedding?
Wedding's about 3 hours south of Chicago, so I'm flying.
Oh, dude, so you get to go up north in the summer. So me and Victoria just got back from Yellowstone. I mean, we literally flew in Tuesday night. Man. It was sunny and 75 the entire time. Like, going up north for the summer, that's where it's at.
Yeah, I'm going to be there for 2 days, but I'm very much looking forward to getting out of Louisiana heat.
All right, well, Hunter, have a safe flight out there, man. Have fun at the wedding, but not too much fun, man. We'll talk to you next time.
Hey, no promises, but I will talk to you soon. Thanks, Taylor.
Yeah, absolutely. That was Hunter McCann there with WBRZ. You can also hear him right here on 104.5 ESPN every Saturday morning on Sports Shorts Radio. All right, look, we're going to take a quick time out. We're going to come back. We're going to have a little fun as we wrap it up here on a Friday edition of AFR.
AFR.
Weekend is almost here. Steamroll toward this weekend. Make plans to get on by Clegg's Nursery. If you're going to be in your garden this weekend, you want to beautify that lawn, that garden, maybe with all the hot weather, not a ton of rain, maybe you got some dead spots in your lawn. Our friends over at Clegg's Nursery can help. Whatever you need to bring that lawn to life. You want to add a pop of beautiful color, full greenhouses with bedding plants and flowers. Just a gorgeous place and a great time to get on by Clegg's Nursery. And they got just about everything that you could possibly imagine over at Clegg's Nursery. Of course, they got gardening hats and tools and utensils and everything that you would need. They got Johnny Naylor seeds and, of course, full greenhouses of beautiful flowers. How about these sunflowers that are over there at the Segan Lane location? Get on by their Facebook page. I always encourage you to do that. If you're a green thumb, you know about Clegg's. You probably already followed their Facebook page, but I would highly recommend, because whenever they get new shipments, whenever they get new items, I recommend you get on by, because they always post them there on their Facebook page. Buy local, shop local, tell them Matt sent you to Clegg's Nursery.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Talking about Michelle weighing and measurement, Michelle.com with 30 offices across 11 different states. If you weigh or measure something, Michelle sells, services, rents the products used to weigh and measure. No matter where you are, you can ship your precision measurement devices to Michelle and they'll calibrate them for you, send them back, or they'll just come to your office, pick them up, and bring them back. They can also do on-site calibration. If you have equipment that can't leave or you don't want it to leave, they can come do on-site calibrations as well with their mobile calibration labs. It's Michelle Weighing and Measurement, online at Michelle.com. Louisiana-born, Louisiana-owned and operated for 76 years. They've continued to grow, expand their footprint while maintaining that local ownership, local feel, handshake deals, face-to-face sales. It's Michelle Weighing and Measurement. They're also hiring. Check out the careers tab at Michelle.com. Again, online at Michelle.com, Michelle.com.
All right, welcome back into the final segment of a Friday edition of AFR. Taylor Sharp sitting in for Matt Moscona. And sometimes dreams become reality very, very quickly. If you had been tuned in for most of the show, the opening segment, I recapped the NBA draft, talked about the Pelicans' need for a point guard. A name that we had thrown out there was DeJounte Murray. And Paul O'Neill, we have a little bit of news from Adrian Wojnarowski. What is it?
Yeah, we have a Woj bomb. The Pelicans have traded for DeJounte Murray. The Pelicans have traded for Murray in exchange for Larry Nance, Dyson Daniels, a 2025 first-round pick, that's from the Lakers, and a 2027 first-round pick. It is the least favorable of the Bucks and the Pels pick.
Okay, this is something that I've wanted to happen for a long time. I mean, we talked about it at the opening segment. While Trae Young is the hot shot, he's the big name, I think DeJounte Murray out of those two fits this team like a glove. He can drive the lane. He's a big guard at 6'5". He can still shoot a little bit from the outside, but most importantly, he's a good distributor. He can get Zion Williamson the ball. He can get it to Herb Jones, to Trey Murphy, to CJ McCollum, to Antonio Reeves on the perimeter. He can get the ball to the shooters. He can drive the lane. He can play that two-man game with Zion Williamson. This is actually better than I expected. I thought they were going to have to trade Brandon Ingram to get a player of DeJounte Murray's caliber. Turns out they don't have to do that. They trade some first-round picks. They get rid of Dyson Daniels and Larry Nance Jr. However, we talked about Larry Nance. We were just joined by Hunter McCann. We all talked about it with Messi, Nance. You could piece it together with a veteran. Now that Nance is gone, that makes your need for a veteran center all that much more important because Jonas Valanciunas is not coming back by all accounts in free agency. Nance is gone. Yves Messi's kind of your only big man at this point. But you know what? The Pels are going to figure it out. I like all the moves that they've made recently. They're going to bring in a solid veteran to kind of share the load down low with Yves Messi, if you will. And look, a starting backcourt of DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum sounds good to me with a Zion Williamson, a Herb Jones, and Trey Murphy on the perimeter. Whether it's Yves Messi or some other veteran, this team is looking up. These are the type of moves that get you excited. You had a really good thing going a year ago. You were decimated with injuries at the worst time, whether it was Zion, whether it was Valanciunas, whether it was Brandon Ingram, who we've talked about a lot on this show. This was the perfect trade to make, and you keep Brandon Ingram. Now, you can still deal him. Can you deal him for a big man now? That's the most important thing to look at because you got your point guard. You need a big man now that you don't have Larry Nance or Jonas Valanciunas anymore. Brandon Ingram is still that prime trade candidate. Now, hand up, I've said multiple times, I would like to keep Brandon Ingram. I just financially don't think that's going to happen. He's going to want a max deal. With his injury history, I don't think the Pelicans are going to give it to him. But the fact that you can get DeJounte Murray and hold on to Brandon Ingram to possibly deal him for a much-needed post player down the road, this was huge. This was an excellent move by the New Orleans Pelicans. I wanted to have a little fun here in the last segment. Nothing more fun than a Woj bomb here to close things out on a Friday there. Okay, look, we had a jam-packed show. Hour number one, we talked NBA Draft. Obviously, just now, DeJounte Murray has been traded to the New Orleans Pelicans. We talked some LSU football, some offseason recruiting. Hunter McCann hopped on to talk some Pels in the NBA Draft, to talk some college baseball as well. Matthew Perez, beat reporter, Times-Picayune, and The Advocate hopped on to talk all things New Orleans Saints. We broke down the Athlon Sports preseason top 10 of college football. We have had a jam-packed show. Shout out to Matt Moscona for letting me hop in and try not to steer this thing off the tracks too much. Paul O'Neill on video, Alondra on audio. Keeping me on task, which is no easy thing to do. I'm not going to be in next week for Matt. It looks like Matt Musso is going to be in for Matt Moscona for most of the week next week. For Alondra, for Paul, I'm Taylor Sharp signing off here on a Friday edition of AFR. Everyone have a good weekend. We'll be back right here with you on Monday morning.
AFR.
Brought to you by Evermore, all natural, great tasting water. When you uncap a bottle of Evermore, that's the first time the product touches air. It's incredible. It's a natural well. It's natural artesian water. It's a well. It's on the North Shore. I went to their bottling facility. When you pull up on the left, you'll see the well is right there. They've drilled deep into the earth. They pipe it out right into their filters and their filtration system. Nothing is added. Nothing is extracted. It is completely pure from the earth water. So if you want a healthier option, if you want a healthier lifestyle, something healthier for your children, maybe you're an athlete that wants a superior form of hydration, Evermore, EVAMOR. If you notice, go to their website, you'll see Dak Prescott is one of their chief spokespeople. I mean, starting NFL quarterback is vouching for it. Check it out at great local retailers or order on their website at EVAMOR.com, Evermore.com, Evermore.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.